Chapter 1599. The demon ancestor, who had been hiding for a long time after his resurrection, was finally trapped by Jun Changshao on a deserted island in Donghai. In the distance, there were the disciples of the Sect of all times and thousands of Diablo. Nearby, there were the top experts of the stone statue race and the dragon race. He was surrounded by a large number of police cars. Pitiful and sad. Jun Changshao covered his face with one hand and let out a strange laugh. He had been thinking about the demon ancestor before, but now he had accidentally found him when he was building a transmission base in Donghai. It was really easy to find what one was looking for. The 3 chancellors and 9 ministers, and the 3 dragon kings were speechless. They swore that they had never heard such a despicable laugh. Sigh. The demon ancestor sighed helplessly and said, "So I've been exposed." The experts of the stone statue race and the dragon race frowned. It was hard to imagine that this young man in his early 20s was the lord of the demon race, who dared to fight against the top 10 celestial sects 100,000 years ago. So what? The demon ancestor puffed out his chest proudly. The situation was very unfavorable to him, but it didn't matter. He was a hero of a generation who had seen all kinds of storms. He wouldn't be afraid of anyone in adversity. Whoosh, whoosh, a majestic demonic aura gathered, and his eyes gradually turned cold. Not bad. I am the demon ancestor, the lord of the demon race. After a few words, the aura of a hero became stronger. The readers present were not only in awe, but also in deep thought. Who was the villain in this book? Jun Changshao laughed again and said, "Do you admit it? Kid." The demon ancestor's eyes almost popped out. "Your disciples stole my Khanate sacred demon body. This is a blood feud. Sooner or later. Take him down." Jun Changshao didn't wait for him to finish and shouted, "Swoosh, swoosh." The 3 chancellors and 9 ministers, and the 3 dragon kings rushed over. Because the other party was an expert from 100,000 years ago, in order to show respect and caution, they completely unleashed their peak truth-seeking realm. The demon ancestor's expression became interesting. If he was facing a middle-level expert like Ryu Sinan, he was confident that he could fight 300 rounds. But with his current strength, he would definitely die. "Brat," he said hatefully. "Just you wait." Chua. His 10 fingers interlaced, and his eyes instantly turned red. He roared, "Demonic seal." His voice suddenly stopped as a majestic aura appeared above his head. He hurriedly raised his head and saw a huge pagoda with an ancient aura pressing down on him. Not good. Ancestor Devil's expression changed. In an instant, a strong sense of foreboding and uneasiness welled up in his heart. He couldn't let it hit him. He had to dodge it. Great teleportation technique. In the nick of time, the demon ancestor cast some kind of magic. However, before he could finish his sentence, there was a loud boom. The heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda was like a huge mountain pressing down on the small island. Powerful energy rippled out, causing the surrounding sea to boil. The experts from the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan were stunned. What the hell was that? Why was it emitting such a terrifying aura? Ever since the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda was changed to the pagoda of confinement, it was rarely used to smash people. Today it made its debut in the upper realm. What about the devil ancestor? He was locked inside. However, when Jun Changshao took back the soul-suppressing pagoda and held it gently with his palm, his spiritual thoughts entered it. He found that the guy was lying on the ground lifeless. He said in surprise, "He died just like that." He ran away. The system said, only a body was left. Just now, the demon ancestor had used the great teleportation technique, a secret technique of the demon clan. His soul and body quickly separated and disappeared into the void. "Damn it," Jun Changshao said rather angrily. "He escaped." "That's normal," the system said. The 10 major immortal sects and the various clans could only watch him revive. With the host's current strength, how could he catch him? If he was just an ordinary truth-seeking realm cultivator, he would definitely not be able to escape in such a situation. However, the demon ancestor was the demon ancestor after all. If he didn't have a life-saving trump card at a critical moment, He wouldn't be worthy of being a super, free, anti-rich child sect. Sigh. Jun Chongshao shook his head. However, he soon smiled. Although the demon ancestor ran away, his body was left behind. It was just right for Yi Xingchen to use. Return to the sect. Yes. The upper echelons and disciples of the sect of all times returned home. The powerhouses of the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan also returned to their respective ancestral lands. On the way, he kept thinking about whether he was too weak to fight the demon ancestor of the 10 major immortal sects and various clans 100,000 years ago. There was no other way. He had just been revived, and his cultivation was less than 10% of his peak. Otherwise, not to mention the upper echelons of the two clans, even the half-step Gongsun Ruoli would not be afraid. In the end, the reason why the demon ancestor was so tragic was that he had not recovered. Otherwise, he would definitely beat up Go Sheng until he called him daddy. In the vast universe starry sky, dozens of steel warships were moving at high speed. They came from the star spirit realm and had been rushing for nearly 2 years. Boom! Boom! In a cabin there was a loud bang. Numbers kept appearing on the barrier that was similar to an array formation light screen. It increased from the initial 5,600 to more than 9,000. General. A voice sounded. You have reached your limit. Boom. The bare-chested, muscular middle-aged man punched again before stopping. He then took a bath towel from his subordinate and wiped the sweat on his face. He said, "How long will it take to reach the upper realm?" General. The subordinate said, "About a year." The general sat down and covered his head with the bath towel. His deep eyes flashed with fighting spirit. He said, "Before the Third Fleet was destroyed, they sent a message saying that there are powerhouses with combat power over 10,000. Waiting for another year is a bit urgent." General. The subordinate said weakly, "Your combat power is only 9,000. I'm afraid." Boom. The general suddenly stood up and punched the barrier. Beep. Beep. The originally fixed value of 9,000 instantly soared to 10,000. He said coldly, "Are you questioning this, General?" The subordinate's face suddenly changed. He had not broken through 10,000 after so long. How did he suddenly reach it? General. At this time, a voice sounded from the warship. According to the investigation, there are unstable factors in the space system of the Azure Ocean realm. We can rely on the distortion array to connect with it and reach our destination faster. How fast? About 3 to 5 months. Inform everyone to activate the distortion array. Yes. Whoosh, dozens of steel warships had just arrived at the Azure Ocean realm. Relying on the turbulence caused by the space, they instantly drilled in, indicating that the catastrophe of the upper realm was about to arrive early. General. Soul body found ahead. Capture it. Yes. The bottom of the main warship opened, and a thick muzzle appeared. Then a stream of light was shot, and then it turned into a large net, capturing the soul floating in the deep space. General. This is a soul from the demon realm. Its combat power and potential are evaluated at 6,200. Demon realm soul? The middle-aged man sitting in the cockpit was surprised. Why is it in the distant Azure Ocean realm? Is it an ancient immigrant? Inject the soul-controlling liquid. Place it on number 9527 level 1 servant. Yes. Chapter 1600. In the upper realm. Heaven and earth collapsed, mountains collapsed and rivers dried up. The demon ancestor sat proudly on a throne made up of countless corpses and bones. His entire body exuded an aura of disdain. Below him were the heads of the elites of the 10 great celestial sects, and the head of the patriarch of the sect of all times. Around him were millions of demon army soldiers lined up neatly, making his domineering aura even more intense. Hee hee. The joyful laughter of taking revenge rang out in the sky. Whoosh. Suddenly, a basin of cold water broke, and the demon ancestor woke up from his dream. Damn it. So it was a dream. Sigh. The things that happened in the dream could only happen in the dream. What's going on? The demon ancestor's mind gradually became clear. He realized that he was in a light barrier. So he held his head that felt like it had exploded. Wait a minute. Why do I have hands? The demon ancestor's memory was still stuck on using the great travel skill. This was one of the mystical abilities of the demonic seal. When in danger, it could quickly separate the soul from the body and hide in a deeper space. 100,000 years ago he had used it. Although the elites of the 10 great celestial sects found out about it and intercepted it, a remnant of his soul managed to escape and was resurrected. This time, it went smoothly, but the demon ancestor lowered his head and looked at his thick arms. Then, he looked up with difficulty and saw himself through the mirror-like barrier. He was so shocked that he took a few steps back and almost blurted out, "Who is this ugly monster?" The body he was occupying now was much stronger than the one he had previously reconstructed. However, his face was abnormally ferocious and looked very scary. He looked like an orc in a game, especially his green skin, which made him look like a giant in a movie. "What's going on? What's going on?" The demon ancestor clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with rage. He had used the demonic seal's great travel skill to escape from his perfect body. But when he woke up, his soul was placed in the body of an extremely ugly monster. This was hard for him to understand and accept. Beep. Vital signs normal. Potential development normal. Combat power 6,200. Suddenly a voice came from the barrier. "Who is it?" The demon ancestor quickly became alert. "Who's talking? Who?" At this moment, the barrier around him disappeared into thin air, and an indescribable building appeared in his field of vision. Several cultivators in tight-fitting clothes stood next to it, holding various small notebooks in their hands, as if they were doing statistics. "Who are you?" The fiend ancestor's eyes turned cold. His face looked even scarier. "Ta." A middle-aged man in a neat military uniform walked in from the outside. His leather boots made a rhythmic sound as they touched the ground. Then, he sat in the front seat in a suave manner. He clasped his white-gloved hands together and said indifferently, "Star Spirit Sector, First Fleet." Star Spirit World? The expression on the demon ancestor's face changed from vigilance to dullness. During the meeting held in Divine Saint City earlier, he had heard from his subordinates that the invading warship seemed to be from the Star Spirit World. How could he have encountered someone who had used a divine ability to drill into the void? This matter. It all started with Go Sheng using the system's power. In short, obtaining great power also brought about many unpredictable problems. "Listen carefully," the middle-aged man said indifferently. "I am the captain of the First Fleet. You can call me General or Master, because from today onwards, you are my slave, number 9527. Slave? The demon ancestor's eyes flashed with anger as he rushed forward. His green and thick arms pressed down as he said angrily, "Go to hell. Protect the general." Shwa, shwa, shwa. The guards beside the middle-aged man hurriedly stood in front of him, but they still could not withstand the powerful punch, and were instantly sent flying. Jie. The demon ancestor suddenly stood in place, and looked at his fist in a daze. This power, this strength. Could it be that I have recovered 60% of my cultivation? The middle-aged man said indifferently. Although your soul is very weak, your potential is very high. That's why it was quickly stimulated after fusing with the level 1 corpse servant. Corpse servant? Fusion? The demon ancestor's mind was in a mess, but he could roughly guess that his sudden recovery of 60% of his strength was related to this guy. "I will make you stronger," the middle-aged man said. "Isn't it natural to be a slave?" His tone was always calm, even with obvious disdain, as if he had already entered the role of a master. The demon ancestor was furious. As the master of the demon clan, it was a great humiliation to be treated as a slave. Die! Whoosh! A powerful demonic aura burst out, and violent power gathered in his right fist. The strength close to the peak of the truth-seeking realm completely erupted. With the demon ancestor's current strength, although he might not win if he faced Jun Changshao and the powerhouses of the two clans again, he did not need to use the risky demon seal secret technique at all if he wanted to escape. Whoosh! The wind howled and the air froze. However, just as the powerful iron fist was about to hit him, the middle-aged man raised his hand and caught it. he said indifferently. The ninth law of the Star Spirit Realm, 23rd case. Slaves are not allowed to attack their masters, or their lives will be taken away. You. The demon ancestor's eyes widened. This person did not reveal any aura from the moment he appeared, but he could easily catch his full-strength attack. He even felt powerless, as if he had punched cotton. Since you are not a creature of the Star Spirit Realm, the general released his hand and said indifferently, I will spare you this time. Whoosh, whoosh. The demon ancestor mobilized all his strength again, and poured it into his left and right arms, launching a rainstorm-like bombardment. Swoosh. Suddenly, the middle-aged man lightly waved his sleeves, first clasping his hands, then pressing them in front of his chest. His other hand conveniently clasped his neck, raising him high. His gaze was cold and stern as he said, Don't use your temper to challenge my patience. His gaze was extremely domineering. The restrained demon ancestor's eyes were filled with intense fear. It had nothing to do with his realm. Even if he was at his peak 100,000 years ago, he would definitely feel a chill down his spine when he saw this gaze. The third step. He must be at the third step. Plop. The middle-aged man threw the demon ancestor on the ground and patted his slightly wrinkled military uniform. Your potential has not been fully explored yet. You will recuperate in the health cabin next. With that, he turned and left. Oh right. He stopped at the door and said indifferently, As a slave, you must have the consciousness of a slave. If you dare to offend me again, I will easily take away your cultivation and soul. Until the middle-aged man's back completely disappeared, the demon ancestor clenched his fists. His eyes flashed with anger as he said, Damn it! In the next few days, he gradually familiarized himself with the main warship, and also experienced the benefits of the health cabin. Then he suppressed all his unhappiness and unwillingness, and began to meditate and cultivate. Slave? I don't agree. But if he could recover his cultivation as soon as possible, why not take advantage of the opportunity? Boom. In the test room, the demon ancestor punched the barrier. Beep. Combat power 6,700. The middle-aged man sitting outside nodded and said, In just a few days, it increased by 500. Your potential is not bad. After a while, follow Master to conquer the upper realm. You should have a good performance. As expected, this guy was the same as the previous warship. He was going to invade the upper realm. Very good, very good. Returning to the cabin, the demon ancestor looked at the dark starry sky through the window. His ugly face gradually became ferocious. 10 celestial sects. Sect of all times. When this ancestor returns, I will personally destroy all of you. Kikik. Kikik. Bang. Suddenly the door was kicked open. A few soldiers surrounded him and punched and kicked him. They scolded. Your clothes haven't been washed. The dishes haven't been washed. And you still have the face to laugh here. I'll go now. I'll go now. Chapter 1601. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao sat in the study room. After thinking for a while, he said seriously, The demon ancestor cannot be left alive. The system was speechless. After being constipated for half a day, it finally came up with a villain's line. After returning to the sect, Jun Changshao had been thinking about the demon ancestor. If he was not eliminated, he would become a big problem in the future. How should he put it? Yao Minjing obtained his Saint Devil body, and took away General Gui Ba, and the Million Devil Army. Now he took away his reconstructed body. In summary, it should not be less than the hatred of killing his father and stealing his wife. The system said. He revived with great difficulty, and used some kind of magical ability to escape in soul form. He must have suffered a serious backlash. He should not appear for a while. Then we have to find him. Jun Changshao's attitude was firm. He had to deal with the demon ancestor. He could not let him rise again, and target the sect of all times. Patriarch. At this moment, Yi Xingchen walked in and said, That body. After returning to the sect for 3 days, he thought about it day and night. However, Jun Changshao did not mention it. In the end, he could only ask shamelessly, Do you have the confidence to fuse with it? Yes. Okay, take it. Jun Changxiao took out the perfect body. Yi Xingchen hurriedly put it into the spatial ring and entered the space-time secret realm without looking back. Phew! Taking a deep breath, his eyes flashed with excitement. Under normal circumstances, there was no guarantee of success when taking over a new body in soul form. If he failed, he would suffer a huge backlash. However, Yi Xingchen was very confident now, because he cultivated the soul-tempering sacred heavenly technique. Shua. He sat cross-legged on the ground and concealed his spirit in qi. Yi Xingchen closed his eyes. His soul began to move. It flew out like a ghost and merged into the demon ancestor's body. After he left, the other soul in the main body was freed. It began to gradually control his thoughts, and every inch of the body's muscles and blood. Hu Peianyu, this former woodcutter, had always been suppressed by Night Emperor's soul. Although he would take over his body under special circumstances, it was only when he was drunk. Really, what Anyo did had nothing to do with Yi Xingchen. Now, after being suppressed for more than 10 years, he was finally released and could regain control of his own body. He was miserable. He was also lucky. The sad thing was that his body was possessed when he went out to chop firewood. Once he was possessed, it happened more than 10 years ago. Fortunately, after Yi Xingchen left, he left behind a body that had undergone countless tempering and reached the 5th transformation. As long as he completely fused with it, he would no longer be an ordinary person. Furthermore, his fiancée was also in the sect of all times. She had already become a martial artist and had a longer lifespan. It could be considered as compensation. Space-time secret realm. Yi Xingchen was fusing with his new body. In the sect of all times, the disciples continued to cultivate as usual. In just half a month, the members of the Array Formation Hall had set up the teleportation portals in various key areas of the upper realm, achieving real-time fixed-point teleportation. Patriarch Zhen Dejuan reported, 100 teleportation portals have been set up. Jun Changxiao clutched his chest, his heart aching. It can be open to the public, the system said, to make up for the host's loss of 100 million true stones. Bullshit. It's 1 billion. 100,000. How can 100 be 1 billion? Patriarch. Just as the two mathematics prodigies were arguing, Shengguan Xinyao walked in and said, the light spot from the star spirit world has suddenly accelerated. Jun Changxiao hurried to the complete unmanned aircraft. When he saw that the light spot on the star map was much faster than before, he frowned. It has indeed accelerated, the system said. According to estimates, it will reach the upper realm in half a year at most. Half a year? Jun Changxiao fell into deep thought for a moment and said, I still have to strengthen myself as soon as possible, so that I can protect myself when the catastrophe comes. On the same day, he gathered all the higher-ups of the sect and gave them multiple instructions. First, he ordered Fan Yezi to work overtime to research the armor. Second, he ordered Zhen Deshui to work overtime to research the extreme mech. Third, he ordered Shui Rengui to head to the Stone Statue region to train the Stone Statue tribe soldiers. Fourth, he ordered the procurement hall to purchase as many ores and herbs as possible. The entire sect of all times became lively in an instant. The members of each hall turned into tools and entered 997 mode. Jun Changxiao did not stay idle. After giving the order, he left the sect of all times alone and headed to the extreme cave abode. The first thing he said when he saw his master was, hurry up and inform the 10 great immortal sects to come to the sect of all times. I have something important to discuss with them. Pfft! Zhenren Tonggu spat out a mouthful of tea. He wanted the 10 great immortal sects to go to his sect to discuss something? Did this kid think he was very shameless? Master, Jun Changxiao said seriously, this concerns the safety of the upper realm. Please don't delay it. The people from the star spirit world are coming? At most half a year. Zhenren Tonggu's expression became solemn. The invasion of foreign enemies was indeed related to the entire world. Therefore, after some consideration, he brought Masato Kitano to the 10 great immortal sects. However, when they heard that they were going to the sect of all times, they almost asked them to leave on the spot. What a joke! They were an immortal sect. If word got out that they were going to a Xian sect to discuss something, wouldn't they become a joke? Sigh. Jinren Tonggu left the Lingtian immortal sect and shook his head. Is our reputation more important than the crisis of the upper realm? Masato Kitano said. Your disciple doesn't have much weight in the upper realm. Why should he go to the sect of all times to discuss something? Sect of all times. Jun Changxiao was not surprised to know that his master had made a wasted trip. In fact, he had his own little plan from the beginning, which was to take the opportunity to increase the prestige of the sect. The 10 great immortal sects had specially sent powerhouses to the sect of all times to discuss something. If this was known by the other forces, what would they think? Unfortunately, they did not cooperate. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu ate a bowl of fried rice, wiped his mouth with a tissue, and said, The invasion of the astral spirit realm is the business of the 10 great immortal sects. Don't worry about it. Jun Changxiao was speechless. Master, do you think that I don't have the ability to face it? Do you have the ability to face it? Jinren Tonggu asked in return. All right. Jun Changxiao did not explain. Although his realm was not high, he had already controlled the 3 major tribes. Instead, he said, When trouble comes, I will stay out of it. That's right. Jinren Tonggu said. Killing a friend and not killing me is the true way of the world. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. Of course. Jinren Tonggu said. All you juniors can do is become stronger in the future. As for the upcoming catastrophe, he stood up and said seriously, It's better for us old bones to resist it. Jun Changxiao understood. His master's true meaning was to use his own body to create a stronger future for his descendants. Admirable and admirable. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu said. Pack 10,000 fried rice for me. That day he and Masato Kitano left the sect. Looking at their departing figures, Jun Changxiao said in his heart, Master, I will give you a big surprise in half a year. Ka. In the Array Formation Hall's factory, mecha parts were being assembled. Ding! Ding! In the Foundry Hall's factory, the foundry facilities from the demonic region began to operate semi-automatically under the power of crystal cores and magnetite. The disciples turned into assembly line workers and carefully assembled the second-generation mecha. Stone statue region, outside the main city, Shui Rengui, who was wearing armor, stood with his hands behind his back, watching hundreds of thousands of stone statue soldiers practicing formations and tactics on the field. Patriarch, junior brother Li is back. Patriarch, junior brother Tian is back. Patriarch, junior brother Long. In the next few months, Li Fei, Tian Qi, Long Xiang, and the other disciples returned to the sect of all times. Sitting on a huge rock on the highest mountain, Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together, looked up at the sky and said proudly, The sect of all times is not afraid of war. Chapter 1602. Although the 10 great celestial sects did not go to the sect of all times to discuss, they still had to do what needed to be done and deploy what needed to be deployed to prepare for the upcoming disaster. However, they were a little flustered. Referring to the previous invasion of 10 warships, they had gathered a lot of forces to destroy one. If more came, the situation would not be optimistic. Grand Supreme Elder. In the secret chamber of the Lingtian Celestial Sect, the current patriarch Lin Haoyan stood outside the stone door and said respectfully, Soon, there will be a calamity in the upper realm. Please come out of seclusion and help. Don't worry. An ancient voice came from inside. If the upper realm is in trouble, I will not stand by and do nothing. Lin Haoyan heaved a sigh of relief. In his opinion, as long as the Grand Supreme Elder appeared, the problem would not be big. The other upper echelons of the celestial sects were not idle either. They used various methods to contact the old antiques in the sect, hoping to fight against the external enemies when the time came, establishing a foothold in the upper realm, and establishing a realm hall. The 10 great celestial sects still had a foundation and power. Of course, Gosheng was also clear. Therefore, this time when the star spirit world invaded, they would definitely not act as a big shot. What they could do was to protect the sect and come out to deal with the underlings when necessary. It would be best if they could obtain some high-tech from the invaders. In the space-time secret realm, the corpse lying on the ground suddenly opened its eyes. After a long time, Yi Xingqian finally finished fusing with the body of the demon ancestor. Perfect. He stood up, clenched his fists and smiled. Because of the soul-tempering sacred heavenly technique, Yi Xingqian's soul and body were 100% compatible. It was as if this body was originally his. Suddenly, the word attack appeared on his forehead. From this, it could be seen that although the soul had transferred its identity, it still retained the special text effects of the Lingyan Pavilion. You succeeded. Jun Changsha walked in. Yes. Yi Xingqian nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. If not for the patriarch's help, he would not have inherited such a perfect body. And he would not have, whoosh whoosh. His aura erupted. His peak revolving core realm cultivation was fully released. After the demon ancestor was resurrected, after a short period of recuperation, he already had the strength of a middle-level truth-seeking realm expert. Now that his body was occupied by Yi Xingqian, he naturally inherited part of his strength. The soldier gave it to the sect of all times. The technology was given to the sect of all times. His body was given to the sect of all times. His cultivation base was given to the sect of all times. If the fiend ancestor's soul was by his side, Jun Changsha would have cupped his hands and said, "Old Tai, thank you." Patriarch. Yi Xingqian said, "This disciple wishes to take revenge." Although his appearance had changed, his voice had not changed. His sharp gaze and arrogant temperament had not changed. It was still him. What's more, it was a man. Jun Changsha said, "The star spirit world is about to invade. It won't be too late to settle the score with that woman, after dealing with this matter. What's more, you still have a duel agreement. Naturally, you have to wash away your shame in front of everyone." Understood. Yi Xingqian suppressed the thought of taking revenge on Empress Lingyao. He was no longer the Night Emperor who did as he pleased. Instead, he treated the sect of all times as his true home. My head hurts." Pei Anyo, who was lying beside him, held his head and stood up. Tisk. Looking at the body that he had used for more than 10 years, Yi Xingqian snorted arrogantly. The self-blame in his heart had dissipated by quite a bit. All these years had not come to disturb him. However, he knew that she had been watching him from the shadows. At first he was very annoyed. However, as he acknowledged the sect of all times and accepted his fellow disciples, he gradually felt a sense of guilt. It was me who had taken over her fiancé's body. It was me who had single-handedly caused the two of them to turn from lovers to strangers. Every night, when he was in seclusion to cultivate, the self-blame would quietly rise in his sea of consciousness. The sense of guilt would also grow stronger. What should he do? He had to separate from his body and let Anyo return. After cultivating the soul-tempering sacred heavenly technique, he realized that he could choose a new body. Yi Xingqian desperately wanted to free himself to help them. Today, his wish came true. After Pei Anyo gradually got used to it, he saw Jun Changsha standing in front of him and immediately bowed. "Greetings to the patriarch." "Oh." Gosheng was surprised. "You know me. Not only do I know the patriarch, I also know all the senior and junior brothers." Pei Anyo said. Yi Xingqian's expression immediately sank. This kid definitely had self-awareness when he was in control of his body. Didn't he know all the embarrassing things that he had done in the past? So annoying. I really want to kill him to silence him. Reader. Not only did Pei Anyo regain control of his body, he also had rank 5 cultivation, and even inherited the Green Bull bloodline. It could be said that he had obtained the greatest compensation for losing his freedom for more than 10 years. Of course, the one who joined the sect was Yi Xingqian. Thus, Jun Changsha helped him with the entry procedures again. Pei Anyo, sect of all times disciple. Listen up. Yi Xingqian raised his hand and pointed at the camera, saying in a threatening tone, "From today onwards, he and I are two people. Don't call me Anyo anymore otherwise." "Anyo," Jun Changsha said. "Come and try this second-generation battle armor." "Yes, Patriarch." On the mountain peak, Hui Er and her senior and junior sisters were talking and laughing as they walked out. However, just as they reached the staircase, they suddenly stopped and looked back at Yi Xingchen, who was posing in front of a big tree. It's senior brother Yi. Why is he here? The female disciples discussed quietly. These nameless disciples still admired Yi Xingchen a lot. After all, he was strong and handsome. He's walking over. What is he trying to do? Is he looking for senior sister Hui Er? Just as everyone was discussing, Yi Xingchen had already stopped in front of Hui Er. He stretched out his hand and said affectionately, "Are you willing to grow old with me?" The female disciple standing at the side was stunned. God! Was he confessing to senior sister Hui Er? Was this still the cold and aloof Prince Charming that everyone knew? Senior sister. Xia Shuiyan tugged at the corner of Hui Er's clothes and said telepathically, "Hurry up and answer." She knew the story between the two. Now that he suddenly confessed, she definitely hoped that the lovers would get married. Hui Er didn't answer. However, she couldn't stop her tears from flowing. To outsiders, what he said just now was really tacky. But to her, it meant that the real brother Anyo was back. Don't cry. Yi Xingchen raised his hand to wipe away her tears and said, "My heart will ache. So handsome. Senior brother Yi is so manly." The female disciples put their hands together and looked at their senior sister with envy. Brother Anyo. Hui Er finally couldn't control her emotions. She threw herself into the man's arms and cried even more. Pei Anyo hugged his fiancée tightly and lowered his head to whisper in her ear, "I've wronged you all these years. I will use the rest of my life to make it up to you." An expert. On the mountain peak in the distance, Su Xiaoma gave him a thumbs up. Old Wei also nodded and said, "A loyal and affectionate man." Then, he looked at Jun Changshao and the real Yi Xingchen on the other mountain peak with disdain on his face. These two people, they were destined to be alone for the rest of their lives. TSK. Yi Xingchen snorted coldly, but his state of mind was unprecedentedly comfortable. It was as if he had been freed from a prison of sin. The sky was bluer and the water was clearer. Chapter 1603. Roar! Roar! A deafening roar could be heard from the primitive forest. Swish! Suddenly, a 2 or 3-year-old child jumped out from the bushes, holding an egg that was much bigger than his body. Boom! A few gigantic dinosaur-like demonic beasts smashed through the rocks and trees and chased after him. Their eyes were filled with anger, as if they had gone berserk. That egg was their child. They must be furious that it was snatched away. "Come on!" the child shouted as he ran. "Come and catch me!" If there were martial artists from the Falling Star continent present, they would be shocked because this little guy looked like he was only 2 or 3 years old. But he was running so fast with his short legs. His aura was not inferior to that of a martial emperor. Could it be? Was he pretending to be young? Pretending to be a child? Wasn't he too inexperienced? Roar! Roar! At this moment, 2 demonic beasts of the same kind rushed from the side, blocking the path like mountains. They opened their bloody mouths and roared, emitting a foul smell. The child hurriedly stopped and shook his head. He still caught up. The little guy was wearing a red doo-doo, and his face was pink and tender, making people want to pinch his cheeks. Roar! Roar! The 2 demonic beasts strode over, gathering hot flames in their mouths. What? The child's eyes lit up. Are you going to make a fire and roast the egg for me? Bang! Bang! 2 fireballs were shot out. The little guy dodged nimbly, then jumped up with the egg in his arms. He quickly approached one of the demonic beasts and kicked the air. Energy visible to the naked eye burst out and hit the demonic beast's head. The demonic beast fell down like a mountain. Roar! The other demonic beast opened its mouth and spat out rolling flames, setting the surrounding trees ablaze. Swish! The child jumped out of the flames and landed on the ground steadily. He smirked. You want to hurt me with this kind of flame? Boom! 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 At this moment, the demonic beasts chasing from behind rushed over, standing in front of him like mountains. The sun was blocked, and the scene was dark. The child's mouth twitched. His strength was not bad in the lower realm, but the demonic beasts were not bad either. Now that he was surrounded, the situation was a bit tricky. AI. He put down the egg and said innocently, "Can I return it to you now?" His cowardice was adorable. He had shown a cowardly attitude. However, the demonic beasts would definitely not give up so easily. They raised their large feet one after another, and gathered their primitive strength to ruthlessly stomp down. All right. The child's eyes were filled with a coldness that did not match his age. Who? His cultivation base of the lower void piercing stage was fully opened, and his chi circulated in his dantian. Boundless spiritual energy instantly gathered in his meridians that had been tempered thousands of times. He shouted at the top of his voice, "Father, save me!" Swish in the blink of an eye, streams of light shot over from afar, mercilessly piercing through the skulls of the demonic beasts, and causing them to fall to the ground like blooming flowers. Ta! A seemingly honest middle-aged man floated down and picked up the child. He scolded softly, "Brat, you're running around again. If your mother finds out, I'll definitely be punished when I get back." Hee. The little guy stuck out his tongue, but in his heart, he was on the verge of breaking down. "It's too hard for me to pretend to be an innocent little brat every day." That's right. The little brat with the body of a child and the mind of an adult was Gu Zhaoxi. It had only been 2 years since he was reincarnated, and he already had the cultivation base of the lower void piercing stage. His growth speed was truly terrifying. "Son," Gu Tianqing said, "after a while, I'll teach you martial arts." All right. Gu Zhaoxi's eyes lit up. He had such a cultivation base, without even stepping into martial arts. If Gosheng knew, he would definitely cry in the toilet. Roar! Roar! At this moment, a roar came from the sky. Flying demonic beasts flapped their wings and flew over. The entire sky was dyed in a myriad of colors. "Father!" Gu Zhaoxi opened his eyes wide and said, "Is this a war?" "No." The expression on Gu Tianqing's face became serious, and he said, "There." He paused, then smiled and said, "They're here to celebrate your birthday." Ah! Only then did Gu Zhaoxi remember that today was his birthday. At the place where the Gu couple lived in seclusion, all kinds of strange and grotesque demonic beasts were gathered in the surroundings. Looking around, they were densely packed together. Mountain and Sea Realm. As the name implied, it was derived from the mountain and sea scripture. Therefore, the demonic beasts dominated the interior. Even the Realm Lord was an extremely rare crocodile beast. Why were they gathered here? That's right. To celebrate Gu Gou's birthday. Jun Changshao, who was still working hard in the upper realm, had no idea that his life-and-death brother had become the most dazzling existence in the mountain and sea realm at the age of 2. If you compare goods, you'll throw them away. If you compare people, you'll die. Son-in-law. In the room, the crocodile realm lord placed all kinds of heavenly treasures on the table and said with a smile, "Father-in-law can only give you these gifts." The corner of Gu Zhaoxi's mouth twitched slightly. Any one of these heavenly treasures was extremely precious. Why did it feel like they weren't worth it when they came from his father-in-law's mouth? "In-law." Gu Tianqing put all the things into his bag and said with a smile, "You're too polite." "It's my duty, it's my duty." The crocodile realm lord smiled, and his face looked even uglier. When he thought about how his father looked like, his daughter definitely wouldn't be any better. Gu Zhaoxi's desire to run away from the marriage became even stronger. "In-law," Gu Tianqing said, "when should we let them meet?" "Let's do it now." The crocodile realm lord said, "Let's do it today." "Okay. I'm so sleepy." Gu Zhaoxi rubbed his eyes and lay in his mother's arms. He howled in his heart, "Is it too late for me to run now?" Creak. The crocodile realm lord walked out of the thatched cottage. Gu Tianqing sent him off. Just as he was about to cup his fists and say something, he hurriedly looked up at the sky and saw a visible ripple, as if space was folding. The crocodile realm lord was shocked. Gu Zhaoxi's mother walked out with Gu Zhaoxi in her arms. She looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky and said solemnly, "Husband Gu, what kind of power is this? It can stir up the deep space of the mountain and sea realm?" "I don't know." Gu Tianqing released his will to probe the energy fluctuations. Wang. The moment he touched it, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Thump thump. Gu Tianqing retreated several steps and said in shock. Unfathomable. Gu Zhaoxi, who was lying in his mother's arms, stared with wide eyes. After 2 years of contact, his father was absolutely invincible in his heart. But now, he was actually pushed back by the fluctuations in the sky. It was unbelievable. Could it be that there was someone stronger than him in this world? Crack. Crack. Gradually, the folding of space seemed to be torn apart by an invisible hand, forming a huge vortex. An incomparably cold wind blew from within. The Gu couple's expressions became even more serious. They couldn't be sure what this power was, but if it could tear apart the deep space of the mountain and sea realm, it had to be terrifying. In-law, Realm Lord Crocodile frowned. Is this a space-time passageway connecting the mountain and sea realm to another plane of existence? Let's go. Gu Tianqing said. Let's go in and find out. Whoosh. Whoosh. The sudden appearance of the vortex greatly piqued their curiosity. I'll go too. Gu Zhaoxi's mother said. Gu Zhaoxi, who was lying in her arms, breathed a sigh of relief. This rift appeared at the right time. Otherwise, my eyes would have been injured. Whoosh. The three of them walked in front of the vortex. Gu Zhaoxi felt a sense of familiarity as he felt the wind blow by his ear. He was shocked. Could the other side of this space-time tunnel be the higher realm? Chapter 1604. At the Sect of all times. The majestic aura of advancement enveloped all the peaks. Whose breaking through? The disciples released their spiritual senses and looked towards the source. They immediately caught sight of Yi Xingchen standing on the peak. Fuck, Su Xiaomo was surprised. It's only been a few days. How did he break through again? At this moment, the entire sect knew that Yi Xingchen had left Pei Ania's body. Therefore they represented 2 people now. However, he had just fused with the fiend ancestor's body, and was at the peak of the core transformation realm. How did he break through again in just 2 or 3 days? Could it be? Jun Changshao sat in front of the main hall and thought to himself. The energy in his body hasn't been completely digested? That was part of the reason. However, what truly allowed Yi Xingchen to peek into the true realm was that Pei Aniu and Huir finally got married, and he was completely freed from his guilt. Mentality, mental state, overall sublimation. Whoosh, whoosh. The aura of advancement lasted for more than an hour before it gradually subsided. Yi Xingchen stood alone on the peak of the mountain, with an unfathomable aura around him. He had broken through. He had entered the truth-seeking realm. There was no agitation or excitement. After experiencing rebirth and a change of body, Yi Xingchen's mental state had undergone an even greater sublimation. Standing on the peak of the mountain, he seemed to have become one with heaven and earth. Night Emperor. He was not born to be funny. Empress Lingyao. Yi Xingchen raised his head, and his deep gaze seemed to pierce through the void. The grudge between us is about to be resolved. He would never forget his hatred at any time. In fact, it was this power that was constantly spurring him on step by step to get to where he was now. In the past, revenge was out of reach. Now that Yi Xingchen had entered the truth-seeking realm, he was not qualified to fight Empress Lingyao, unless the author forcefully strengthened that woman at the last minute. Not bad. Goxing smiled. After Yao Menjing, the sect had another second step expert. This made him very satisfied. Su Xiaoma. Li Fei. Yi Xingchen shouted. We're not going home until we're drunk tonight. Su Xiaomu and Li Fei directly fell to the ground. Brother, we were wrong, okay? Jun Changshao was also very happy that Yi Xingchen had successfully broken through to the truth-seeking realm, so he held a small celebration party that night. Come. Night Emperor stepped on the chair and raised Drunken Dream. I'll drink first as a sign of respect. Gulp, gulp. He gulped it down. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were sitting at the side shivering. If they could turn back time, they would never have forced Yi Xingchen to drink when he was drunk. It was a pity. There was no medicine for regret in this world. Yi Xingchen remembered the 2 of them. As long as they were in the sect, as long as they drank, they would immediately go all out. After careful calculation, the scene of Su Xiaoma and Li Fei falling under the table had happened countless times. Today, they would definitely be carried back by second senior brother. Sigh. He regretted it so much. Plop. Just as Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were mentally prepared, Yi Xingqian, who had raised his head to drink, suddenly fell to the ground drunk. So they looked at each other, and a bunch of question marks appeared on their heads. Jun Changxiao was speechless. Did he not inherit his alcohol tolerance? Yes. Yi Xingqian inherited everything that could be inherited, except for his alcohol tolerance. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei laughed. This guy has returned to drinking in one gulp. What are we afraid of? Without Pei Ania's soul spirit causing trouble, Yi Xingqian might be dead drunk, but he was carried back to his residence and slept until dawn. Damn it. Why did I drink so much that I blacked out? Night Emperor hadn't experienced such a feeling for a long time. When he woke up, he immediately tried to recall if he had gone to the livestock pen or the spirit beast peak. Right? Junior brother Yi. Shall we have another round tonight? After walking out of the room, he met Su Xiaoma. This guy was also despicable. When he realized that Yi Xingqian's alcohol tolerance wasn't good, he started to act arrogantly and completely forgot how he was trampled on previously. Come. Night Emperor still didn't realize his situation and accepted the challenge forcefully. As a result, he drank himself to a pulp and was carried back to his room by Li Qingyang. Why? The next day, he sat at the head of the Kong bed and hugged his head. Why? In the past, not only did he drink in one gulp, but he also made a fool out of himself. As a result, he started to practice his alcohol tolerance and finally became the supreme wine Dao. As a result, after changing his body, all his hard work went down the drain. Here came the problem. Could Pei Ania drink? Yes. He drank until Su Xiaoma and Li Fei collapsed on the table and even wet the bed. With a stronger body and cultivation, losing the alcohol tolerance that he had painstakingly trained was considered a gain and a loss for Yi Xingqian. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. The light spots on the drone's map intensified. The upper realm was getting closer. Rolling dark clouds gathered in half of the sky. The atmosphere was getting more and more somber. Disaster is coming. Zhenren Tonggu and Masato Kitano stood outside the cave residence. Their expressions were unusually solemn. Unlike the previous ominous signs, they were much calmer now that the enemy was confirmed. To be exact, if it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, it couldn't be avoided. Humph. Lin Haoyan stood in front of the main hall and said coldly, "How dare you invade the upper realm? You won't be able to return." The third fleet of the Astral Soul Realm was a surprise attack. It was difficult for the upper realm to form a force that could contend with it in a short time. After years of preparation, they were naturally confident. Sect of all times. Jun Changxiao sat in the courtyard pond fishing. Occasionally, he looked up at the dark sky and said, "The weather is changing again." The camera turned to the array hall. Tao Yuan and Jin Dejuan were going through the handover procedures. After everything was done, the members of the War Cavalry Hall drove away the 1,000 Diablo mechs that had just been produced. All these years, the construction of the mechs had never stopped, so the number kept increasing. Now, the number had exceeded 20,000. Of course, the fastest was the second-generation mech from the demonic tribe. Because of the complete production line, everyone had one mech now. A large number of surplus mechs were even sent to the Stone Statue tribe. The Sect of all times might not be as powerful as the Truth and Path sects, but in terms of basic combat power, they were not inferior to any of the celestial sects. Why? Because of the large number of instant pills produced, rebirth core cultivators were everywhere in the sect. There were as many of them as dogs. Mechs. All kinds of rebirth core cultivators. How much power the Sect of all times could unleash could only be known through actual combat. A few more days passed. Whoosh whoosh. A strong wind blew in the upper realm. The rolling dark clouds that had gathered for a long time gradually formed a huge vortex. Jun Changxiao held a bowl of fried rice and leaned against the door of the cafeteria. He said, "It's here." The system was speechless. "You're still in the mood to eat." After the vortex appeared, The upper realm fell into absolute silence. All the martial artists' faces became serious. They knew that a calamity was coming. Whoosh, whoosh. The vortex made of dark clouds kept spinning. After a while, a steel warship gradually appeared. When it was completely suspended in the sky, a sinister laughter was heard. Beings of the upper realm, the 10 celestial sects and the sect of all times, this ancestor has returned. You are about to meet your end, Kikik, demonic ancestor. Jun Changshao opened his mouth. Grains of rice fell into the bowl. The powerhouses of the 10 celestial sects were furious. That guy is indeed a spy. Chapter 1605. With the help of the space distortion caused by the vast ocean realm, the first fleet of the astral spiritual realm arrived in the upper realm half a year earlier. Whose fault was it? Without a doubt, it was Jun Changshao. If he had not used the system's power without permission, there would not have been space turbulence. Of course, even without Go Sheng's interference, they would still come. It was just a matter of time. The demon ancestor? Hearing the strange laughter from the main warship, Jun Changshao was a little confused. This guy had abandoned his body and escaped in soul form. How could he appear in the astral spiritual realm's warship? Could it be that the lie he casually made up was right? Was he really a spy lurking in the upper realm? Very likely. The system said. Not long after the demon ancestor was resurrected, the third warship arrived. This is definitely not a coincidence. Moreover, from the pill formulas and forging facilities in the Moang region, it can also prove that the Moang clan is an outsider and has a very high level of technology. That's right. Jun Changshao agreed. Even Go Sheng, who made up the lie, believed that the demon ancestor was a spy. The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects naturally believed it, and were already furious. The demon ancestor, who had contributed everything, helped Jun Changshao cover up the lie. What a good person! Of course, he did not realize that shouting from the main warship was equivalent to confirming his identity as a spy. He stood in front of the big screen with his hands on his hips and sneered. The entire upper realm will be plunged into misery and suffering. Because Jun Changshao's intentional and unintentional actions had deeply hurt the demon ancestor many times. Many readers sympathized with him. The phrase "pity the demon ancestor" even made it to the hot search. However, it could not change the fact that he was a villain. Since he was here, he was definitely going to do something big. Whoosh, whoosh, one after another, dozens of warships flew into the upper realm through the vortex. They were like moving mountains hanging in the sky. The scene was like a sci-fi movie. TSK, Jun Changshao said in surprise. There are indeed many of them. Creatures of the upper realm, listen up. At this moment, a voice came from the main warship. I am the captain of the astral spiritual realm's first fleet. I have only one purpose this time, and that is to conquer all of you. The tone was neither cold nor indifferent, a model of pretense. The patriarch of the Ling Tian celestial sect, Lin Haoyan, flew out of the sect and hovered in midair. He said coldly, "You're shameless." Swish, swish. Patriarch and higher-ups of the other immortal sects also flew over. Although there were quite a number of them, they were clearly a little insignificant in the face of the 50 behemoths in the sky. Swish, swish. The rogue cultivators led by Jinren Tonggu and Masato Katano also flew up from the other side. The enemy had invaded. They will not run away. All of a sudden, most of the top-notch forces of the upper realm appeared. The aura that was gathered together was unusually majestic. Master! Jun Changshao was immediately filled with deep veneration. Smelly brat! Jinren Tonggu said telepathically. Hurry up and activate the formation to protect the entire sect. Everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of the upper realm. Jun Changshao said with a serious expression. I'm willing to fight alongside you, Master. There was no mission. There was no reason. He was just influenced by Jinren Tonggu and wanted to be a hot-blooded man for once. Disciple, Jinren Tonggu said. This situation is not something you can participate in. Stay in the sect obediently and don't come out. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, All right. Set up the formation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The entire Aeon Immortal Mountain was enveloped by flowing light. The first and second lines of defense were activated. Jinren Tonggu was relieved. He looked up at the dozens of battleships and said, "Old friend, you and I have known each other for a long time. We rarely compete in martial arts. Why don't we take the opportunity to compete today? How? Let's see who kills more." All right. As Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano chatted and laughed, their eyes gradually filled with determination. This was a catastrophe, and they were prepared to die on the battlefield. Swish, swish. The martial artists of the upper realm, who also realized that something was wrong, flew over spontaneously. They locked onto the invaders and released their cultivation, forming an invisible defensive layer that covered the entire world. Just as Jun Changxiao said, everyone was responsible for the rise and fall of the upper realm. At this time, even if many people had hatred, they would unite in the face of a catastrophe. Roar! Roar! The powerhouses of the various clans flew out of the ancestral land in their true forms and roared at the dozens of battleships. Have all the living beings of the upper realm come out. Just in time, let's get rid of them together. Crack! Crack! The cabin door at the bottom of the main battleship suddenly opened, and the beast-like demon ancestor appeared. Then, it turned into a green light and flew out, hovering above the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects. It stood with its hands crossed like a king returning. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. So ugly. Jun Changxiao. The demon ancestor turned his head, his veins bulging. He roared. It's all thanks to you that I ended up like this. However, suddenly, he smiled ferociously and said, if it weren't for you, how could I control an even stronger physical body? How could I recover to my peak cultivation in just half a year? So, as a thank you, I will destroy the sect of all times and slowly torture each of your disciples to death. What a standard villain. Go Sheng was simply weak in front of him. The expressions of the 10 major immortal sects, Jinren Tonggu, and the other powerhouses changed. They didn't care how ugly the demon ancestor's body was. What they cared more was that this guy had recovered to his peak. This is troublesome. Masato Kitano's expression was solemn. He hadn't experienced what happened 100,000 years ago, but he knew that the demon ancestor was very good at fighting at his peak. If he really recovered to his peak state, not to mention the invading battleships, he alone could challenge the entire upper realm. You may doubt it, but I need to prove it. Swish. As the demon ancestor spoke, he raised his hand. Majestic true spirit power gathered. And then he shot out a beam of light directly toward the Aeon Immortal Mountain. Crack. Crack. The beam of light contained supreme power and profound meaning. It instantly tore through the surrounding space. Judging from the traces left behind, it was as if it had been slashed by a sharp giant sword. Boom! A big explosion occurred above the Aeon Immortal Mountain, and a mushroom cloud appeared. Crack! 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 All kinds of arrays gathered outside the sect appeared crazily under the influence of the remaining power. They collapsed crazily and finally turned into nothingness. The Taishian elder's expression turned ugly. In the past 2 years, he had been improving the strength of the array. He was convinced that it would be far stronger than the last time the battleships invaded. In the end, it collapsed under the influence of the remaining power. In the face of absolute power, all defenses were futile. Whoosh! Whoosh! The violent airwaves roared, and the remaining power gradually weakened. In the explosion area, Jinren Tonggu crossed his hands together, and his white hair flew in a mess. He looked quite embarrassed, and in the end, he couldn't help but vomit blood. He injured the demon ancestor, who was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm, with one strike. The recovered demon ancestor was indeed terrifying. Master! The expression on Jun Changxiao's face became ferocious. Heh! The demon ancestor said lightly, Junior, you're not bad. You can take a casual attack from me. Chapter 1606. The beam of light released by the demon ancestor was extremely powerful. As long as it landed, the entire everlasting immortal mountain would turn into nothingness. Fortunately, there was Jimren Tonggu. After realizing that something was wrong, he immediately blocked the path that he had to pass through. Although he successfully resisted and protected Jun Changshao and the sect of all times, he was inevitably injured. Jimren Tonggu could be considered one of the top experts, but in the end, he couldn't withstand the beam of light released by the demon ancestor. This was too powerful. The experts from the 10 great immortal sects frowned. They were already certain that this great devil had indeed recovered his peak cultivation. Even if he didn't truly step into the third step, he was at least half a step into it. TSK. The demon ancestor laughed strangely. Now do you believe me? Being placed in an ugly body made him very resistant at first, but on the way here, he kept increasing his strength. Not only did he accept it, he even enjoyed it. Upper realm. You can tremble now. 100,000 years ago, he was killed by a joint effort. 100,000 years later, he was reborn. After experiencing all sorts of tragedies, the demon ancestor, who had recovered his peak cultivation, could finally hold his head high. Villains die from talking too much? No. I will break this law today. Don't worry. The demon ancestor said with a sinister expression. This ancestor will slowly kill all of you. After shooting out the beam of light, he did not even look at Jun Changshao, because this kind of trash could be easily killed with his own strength. Now the first thing he had to do was to destroy the 10 great immortal sects and the various great clans. He had many enemies. He needed to follow the order. Moreover, the best way to take revenge was to make trash feel fear. Jun Changshao did not feel fear. Instead, anger rose in him as he roared in his heart. System, come out. Injuring master. I want to kill him. Although Gosheng was currently in a state of rage, he knew very well that if he did not rely on the power of the system, even if he used all sorts of trump cards, he would not be able to shake the demon ancestor. Strength. This was Jun Changshao's biggest weakness. Sorry. The system said. I can't help. It had no choice but to possess the body to assist in the matter of Little Dragon's power being seized. No matter what, it could not show its face again, because it would only disrupt the order of the world. Don't threaten me. The system added. The ultimate is on cooldown. Jun Changshao was silent. Without the help of the system, he would continue to be invisible. 9527. At this moment, an impatient voice came from the main battleship. Cut the crap and do it. The fiend ancestor, who had been feeling smug, had a look of pain in his eyes. There was no denying it. He was very strong now. But because it was a corpse servant, it had to listen to the orders of others. Trash. The demon ancestor opened his arms, and a vast aura erupted. He said coldly, Welcome the darkness. Dozens of battleships opened their hatches one after another. Unmanned drones flew out and gathered behind him, forming a dense and dazzling formation. Calm. Are you afraid? However, now that things had come to this, they had to fight for the upper realm. Who? As the drones gathered like a swarm of locusts, the martial artists of various forces and itinerant cultivators unleashed their cultivation, their eyes flashing with intense battle intent. Of Tonggu. The demon ancestor gave the order. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. An innumerable number of drones began to move rapidly, like dark clouds that filled the sky, pressing down on the enemy. Kill! Kill! The martial artists of the upper world roared angrily. They took out all kinds of weapons and gathered all kinds of light to meet them. From afar, the two forces were evenly matched. The scene was like a battle between planets. Boom! 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 A moment later, the two forces representing different worlds began a fierce battle in the sky. All kinds of lights rose and fell, dazzling everyone. The experts of the 10 immortal sects did not stay idle either. They locked onto the demon ancestor and rushed over. Whoosh! The top forces attacked, and their auras became even more intense. Trash! The demon ancestor suddenly threw a punch in the void. As the space collapsed, a huge fist shadow was formed and blasted toward the experts of the immortal sects. Under his domineering strength, he directly sent two peak truth-seeking realm experts flying. Swish, swish. Several experts took the opportunity to rush over. They used all kinds of martial arts and secret techniques, forming colorful lights that blasted over. Boom, boom, boom. Space exploded, and balls of light gathered. Swish, the demon ancestor, dashed out of the stream of light. His arms, which carried the power of true spirit, suddenly turned in midair. The space quickly distorted and produced some kind of deep vibration. Oh no! Retreat! Boom! 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 More than 10 experts from the Lingtian immortal sect and other forces did not retreat in time. They were instantly affected by the spatial vibration and fell to the ground as if they had been severely injured. Then they lost their lives. Jun Changshao frowned. Those immortal sect experts who were killed were at least in the upper truth-seeking realm, but they were killed so easily. As he had guessed, this guy would definitely become a huge problem if he did not get rid of him. The demon ancestor laughed sinisterly. Let the slaughter begin. 100,000 years of anger, 100,000 years of grievance. All of it would be released today. Old demon ancestor. Suddenly, an ancient voice came from the Lingtian immortal sect. I'll fight you. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, an old man with the demeanor of an immortal appeared with the vast power of true spirit. In the blink of an eye, he was hundreds of feet away from the demon ancestor. The laws of heaven and earth and attributes of heaven and earth instantly condensed, turning into palm prints that pressed down. Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, twitched the corner of his mouth. He was not qualified to participate in a battle of this level at all. Boom! Boom! The demon ancestor waved his hand in the sky, and the power to shake space erupted frequently, dissolving the palm prints that attacked him one by one. He said disdainfully, "You want to shake me with this little power? What if we join?" The other 9 grand elders of the other 9 sects appeared one after another. 100,000 years ago, the top experts of the immortal sect had once surrounded the demon ancestor above the West Sea. 100,000 years later, history repeated itself. The demon ancestor smiled coldly and said, "Your strength is far inferior to that group of old guys. Go." The grand elder of the Lingtian immortal sect shouted. Whoosh, whoosh. The remaining experts of the 10 immortal sects immediately launched an attack. Because their strength was above the peak of the truth-seeking realm, their attacks were absolutely earth-shattering. It's over. Jun Changshao was speechless. The catastrophe that the upper realm suffered this time was obviously from the Star Spirit World fleet. However, the 10 immortal sects had to use their trump cards as soon as they sent out the demon ancestor and a bunch of small fries. How were they going to face the main force next? Boom! Boom! In the sky, the experts of the immortal sect and the demon ancestor fought. The special effects of this level of battle were too high. In order to save money and costs, the camera cut to the middle and low altitude. All kinds of martial artists were fighting with the locust-like drones. Patriarch, Ryusinan said, "Shall we watch?" Swish. Jun Changshao waved his hand, took out a cigar from his space ring, and threw it into his mouth. Then he lowered his head and lit it, saying, "Attack." Hum, hum. The array barrier trembled slightly, and then disappeared into nothingness. Jumren Tonggu, who was standing in the sky above the Aeon Immortal Mountain to suppress his injuries, sensed that something was wrong. He hurriedly looked back, and then his eyes widened, because what appeared in his vision was 20,000 Diablo mech slowly ascending into the sky, with 1,000,000 Moang soldiers following behind. Ryu Sinan, the black and white Rakshasa, Ding Xingwang, and other higher-ups, as well as Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Su Xiaoma, and other core disciples also flew up. Master. Jun Changshao threw away the cigar, rubbed it with his feet, and put on the great sage suit. He grinned and said, "Since the sect of all times is in the upper realm, we must advance and retreat together. So, please forgive your disciple for being unrestrained in his life." Swish, swish. 20,000 mechs and 1,000,000 Moang soldiers flew out of the Aeon Immortal Mountain. Sect of all times. Join the battle. Sect of all times. Join the battle. A loud and heroic voice resounded in the upper realm, shaking the world and everyone. Chapter 1607. Even if the sky fell, there would be tall people to hold it up. Therefore, before the astral spirit realm invaded, although Jun Changshao was actively preparing, he did not plan to participate in the battle. The appearance of the top forces of the 10 immortal sects and the demon ancestor in the sky also proved his previous guess. Even if he wanted to play in a battle of this level, he was not qualified. It was better to die than to die. He could only hide. Don't blame Jun Changshao for being too shameless. It was just that his strength did not allow him to do so. However, when the demon ancestor appeared and injured Jimren Tonggu, his mentality immediately changed. How dare you hurt my master? I'll fight it out with you. Therefore Jun Changshao, who had originally planned to stand by and watch, gave the order. The array formation that enveloped the sect of all times dissipated, and 20,000 Diablo warriors and 1,000,000 devil soldiers moved out together. The sect of all times was not qualified to participate in a battle of the top level. But was it not enough to deal with this group of flies? Swoosh! Swoosh! Mechas flew past him one after another, and Jimren Tonggu's expression gradually stiffened. When the third fleet invaded, he had seen the Diablo warriors, but he never expected that so many would suddenly appear after the array formation disappeared. 20,000 mechas, and they were very large, flying out of the sect of all times out of the blue. The scene was absolutely spectacular. It was fine if it was just the mechas, but what shocked Jimren Tonggu the most was that there were 1,000,000 tall and well-equipped soldiers behind them, and their cultivation levels were all at the reincarnation core realm. In the eyes of a peak truth-seeking realm cultivator, the reincarnation core realm was nothing, but so many of them appearing at once was still very shocking. It was not just him. When Taoist Qi Yi and the other experts saw the group of colossal creatures and the densely packed soldiers flying out from the direction of the timeless immortal mountain, they were all subconsciously stunned. The invaders had invaded. The main characters were supposed to be the 10 immortal sects. However, when the sect of all times army appeared, they instantly became the focus of the entire scene. Formation. Zhong Yi, who was sitting in Mecha number 1, gave the order. In an instant, the 20,000 Diablo warriors behind him split up and gradually formed a large net in midair. Activate performance mode. Crack. Crack. The soul disciple inside the Diablo mech pushed the lever skillfully, and the formation on the mech shone brightly. The originally dark exterior of the mech became colorful. First squad left wing. Second team right wing. Yes. Whoosh. 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 The thousands of fighter jets representing the first and second teams quickly spread out to both sides, like an eagle slowly spreading its wings. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the main hall of the sect, placed his hands on his legs and clasped his fingers together. He said proudly, "Today, the sect of all times will shine in the upper realm and forge an indelible legend." Swish, swish. The unmanned mecha flying out from the dozens of battleships seemed to be under deliberate control. They all aimed their spearheads at the mecha in the formation, and then rushed over without regard for anything else. The scene was like a school of sardines in the sea, but also like a gathering tornado. "Kill!" Zhong Yi shouted. Swish, 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 swish. With a single command, 20,000 mechas shot forward. Boom! Boom! The mecha and mecha seemed to have merged into one in an instant, unleashing the most intense battle. The sounds of cannons tearing and whistling filled the entire sky. Dazzling explosions rose and fell, one after another incessant. A moment later, all kinds of debris fell like rain. In the past 2 years, the formation inside the Diablo mech had been constantly improved, and its power was increasing day by day. On the other hand, the number of unmanned mecha in the astral spiritual realm did not seem to have changed much, except for the fact that there were more of them than before. Swish, swish. Jing Ji, who was piloting mech number 66, was very familiar with the operation. She traversed through the densely packed fighter jets and with a sweep of Fan Yezi's heavy saber, dozens of them were eliminated in an instant. This was a routine operation. This was because any disciple who controlled the Diablo mech could fight with ease. It was normal for one to kill dozens of them. Of course, even if the unmanned mecha were like ants, with their large numbers, they could still cause fatal damage to the mecha. Beep, defense failed. Beep, power disconnected. After killing 7 of them, Jingji heard the notification sound in her ears. She looked through the cockpit at the densely packed fighter jets outside, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Then she pressed the red button decisively. Self-destruct mode activate. Countdown 10, 9, 8. In the outside world, the dilapidated mech number 66 was suspended in midair. White smoke billowed from its body, showing the world how mighty and tragic it was. When the countdown reached 1, Jingji shouted, "Sect of all times forever." Boom! Under the eyes of the world, the mech that had exhausted all its power emitted its last light, and nearly 1,000 fighter jets that were approaching were instantly reduced to nothing. All the martial artists were in awe. Swish! A stream of light flew out of the thick smoke and landed on the training field of the Sect of all times. Jingji, who was standing in place, took 2 steps back, and a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. She had shamelessly asked for mech number 66 for the Patriarch. Although she had only piloted it for a short period of time, she had built a deep relationship with it. Now that she had personally detonated it, she must be feeling terrible. Jun Changshao comforted her. If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. Boom! Boom! The battle in the sky continued. After being exhausted, the Diablo mecha completed their final mission by self-destructing. The mech was not invincible, but the damage it caused was very obvious. According to rough statistics, the loss of one mech would destroy nearly 5,000 fighter jets, injuring 5,000 enemies and losing one mech. This result was within Jun Changxiao's acceptable range. However, the Taishan old man standing in the array hall clutched his chest. The mechs were all made by him, and they were like children to him. Now that he had to send his children away, it was too painful. 7-star array. Just as the mech displayed the strength of the upper realm, the deputy hall master of the war cavalry hall, Tao Yuan, shouted. The Million Devil Army, gathered outside the Aeon Immortal Mountain, finally moved. If this was compared to a secular war, the 20,000 Diablo mechas were just the cavalry in the vanguard. The real main force was these infantry. Kill! Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! With an order, the Million Devil Army moved out. Their momentum was huge, and they were wearing second-generation battle armor. They were like rolling black clouds surging from the Aeon Immortal Mountain to the sky. Boom! Boom! In the sky, the demon ancestor, who was fighting with the experts of the 10 great immortal sects, felt a large amount of demonic energy surging out. His state of mind was disturbed, and he hurriedly looked over. It would have been better if he did not look. The experts of the immortal sects were overjoyed. They thought that they would need time to deal with this person, but they did not expect that he would be injured by everyone so quickly. Sorry, you think too highly of yourself. The demon ancestor vomited blood not because of internal injuries, but because he saw Gui Bajiang and the Million Devil Army, the 8 generals under his command, 1,000,000 troops. Why are they in the Sect of all times? Could it be that they disappeared in the devil territory because that kid stole them? Pfft! The demon ancestor could not hold back the blood and vomited again. Boom boom! After sending a few experts of the immortal sects flying, he shouted at Gui Bajiang and the Million Devil Army, "All of you, submit to me now." As the lord of the devil territory, he had to control his subordinates for his own use. However, the demon ancestor forgot that not only did he not have the innate saint demonic body, but he had also changed his body. So the end result was no one cared. If he were to describe it as an idiot, Gui Bajiang and the Million Devil Army would roll their eyes and say, "Who is this guy? Damn it." Seeing that his subordinates treated him like air, the demon ancestor gritted his teeth in anger. He could only vent his anger on the experts of the 10 great immortal sects, and his power was even stronger than before. 9527. The general's voice came from the main battleship. You have disappointed me. Whoosh! Suddenly, a stream of light flew out of the battleship and appeared in the battlefield between the demon ancestor and the 10 great immortal sects. Boom! The energy of the explosion roared, and the space was mercilessly torn apart. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The supreme elder of the high heaven immortal sect and the others seemed to have been severely injured, and they were sent flying in all directions. Then, they staggered and hovered in the air, and said in shock, "Heavenly secret?" Whoosh! In the area where the battle took place, a middle-aged man in a neat military uniform waved his cloak elegantly. He sat on a suspended chair with one leg crossed over the other. He gently shook a goblet filled with fine wine and said, "I'll give you 2 choices. 1, become a slave. 2, die." Jun Changshao was silent. He suddenly appeared and defeated 10 top experts, sat calmly in the sky like a king, and said such arrogant words. This person's acting skills are not inferior to mine. Chapter 1608. The sudden appearance of the captain of the first fleet of the astral spirit world sent 10 immortal sect powerhouses flying. Then he sat in the sky confidently. Not only did he show his terrifying strength, but he also showed his terrifying thing. Jun Changshao was hit hard. That thing was usually done by him. But today, he was reduced to a background wall. It could not be helped. The other party had a hardcore strength. Since he did it, could he trigger the one-punch kill? One had to know that the principle of using it was if the opponent did it in front of Go Sheng. Unfortunately, there was no such thing. First of all, the captain was really strong. The 10 immortal sects were not worth mentioning in front of him, so it was natural no matter what. Second, the one-punch kill was completely outdated. Even if it met the requirements, it was just a showy but impractical move. Unless there was an upper realm version or a higher version. I don't like to waste time. The general was still gently swirling his wine glass. No expression appeared on his face as he said, "I'll give you 15 minutes to consider." Humph. The high elder of the high heaven immortal sect said coldly, "You want us to be slaves? You're dreaming." Anyone with a bit of temper and courage would not choose to be a slave to the invaders. Therefore, the attitude of the powerhouses was to fight to the death. "I don't agree to be slaves." The middle-aged man took a sip of wine. His eyes gradually turned cold as he said, "So I'm choosing death?" Jun Changshao clenched his fists. This guy was definitely the most impeccable person he had ever seen in his life. "It's normal," the system said. With the host's current cultivation base, even if you don't release any aura in any lower realm, your words and actions are extremely pretentious. Why? Because of your realm and state of mind. A true powerhouse, after the baptism of time and the nurturing of heaven and earth attributes, will condense a kind of innate momentum, especially when facing the weak. Jun Changshao said, "Are you indirectly saying that I'm a noob?" "You can understand it that way. Get lost." When the two were bickering, the high elder of the high heaven immortal sect said decisively, "I'd rather die than live in dishonor." His words were the thoughts of the upper realm martial artists. Even if the middle-aged man's strength was unfathomable, he was still prepared to fight or sacrifice. "All right." The captain stood up and said, "You probably haven't seen true power, so you don't understand what fear is." Shua. He spread out his hands and said proudly, "My slaves, you can come out now." Swish, swish. From the cabin doors of the 50 warships, tens of thousands of streaks of light flew out. As if they had been professionally trained, they lined up behind the captains of the fleets. When the light dispersed, creatures of various shapes and sizes appeared. These were the same as the fiend ancestor. They were from number 1 to number 9526. Due to their different races, they all looked strange. "It's over." A hint of despair appeared in the eyes of Masato Kitano and the other independent cultivators. Nearly 10,000 slaves had suddenly appeared. Judging from their auras alone, they were no weaker than mid-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. If they fought, it would definitely be destructive. Kikik. The devil ancestor laughed strangely. After living on the main warship for a few months, he had a better understanding of the zombies controlled by the captain. so he did not think that the upper realm had the ability to fight against it. Not compromising. Don't become a slave? Then all of you will die. The devil ancestor had already begun to imagine the scene of the upper realm collapsing, and the people dying. Although it was not his own plan, it was important to participate. Because he hated the 10 major immortal sects and the upper realm to the core, he preferred to see it destroyed. Sigh. A patient with severe psychological distortion. Sect of all times. Seeing so many zombies appear and their overall strength explode, suppressing the auras of the 10 major immortal sects, and even the entire upper realm, Jun Changxiao's expression became unusually serious. You really can't come out? No. You dropped the ball at the critical moment. Can you blame me for this? The system was also very helpless. After all, his power would disturb the order of heaven and earth, and even bring about more serious consequences. It was destined to be used frequently, just like the unstoppable blade. Disciple, Jinren Tonggu said telepathically. Quickly take the disciples and evacuate. He had already realized the seriousness of the problem, so he only hoped to rely on the top forces of the upper realm to support, and let the promising juniors leave as soon as possible. Evacuate, Jun Changxiao said helplessly. Where can we evacuate to? You can evacuate to the stone statue region, the system suggested. Do you think that if the upper realm has the possibility of being destroyed, the small worlds that rely on the system will be spared? Jun Changxiao said. Hold on for a while longer. Then use the system stored to create a miracle. Fuck. It's already at this juncture. Can you stop promoting? It's not promoting, it's the only chance. Jun Changxiao fell silent. Indeed, based on the current situation, the upper realm was simply too weak in the face of the first fleet of the astral soul world. If they wanted to turn the tide, they could only rely on themselves to find a bigger cheat. Maybe you don't think it's scary enough. The general raised his hand and said, I might as well let you broaden your horizons again. Snap. A crisp snap of a finger was heard. Not half of the people in the world died, but small streams of light flew out from the fleet of warships and quickly normalized, like rolling dark clouds covering half of the upper realm. Fuck. Jun Changxiao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Through his perspective, the system quickly came to a conclusion. There are a total of 200 million of these unmanned aircraft. 200 million. What kind of concept was that? It's over. Jinren Tonggu, who originally wanted his disciple to leave as soon as possible, looked even more desperate now. There were close to 10,000 truth-seeking slaves, and countless flying monsters that filled half the sky. Even if they found a place to hide, they would not be able to escape. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu stopped talking. This was because Jun Changxiao, who was wearing the great sage suit, was already standing in front of him. His gaze was solemn as he said, You and I, master and disciple, will fight side by side today. You, Jinren Tonggu shook his head and said, All right, fight side by side. Whoosh. Whoosh. At this moment, a majestic aura emerged from the sect of all times again. The elites of the stone statue clan, led by the 3 chancellors and 9 ministers, flew out. The elites of the dragon clan, led by Long Outyen, and the elites of the Ice Phoenix clan, Divine Walker clan, and other clans also flew out. How did they come? They must have used the super teleportation array. During this period of time, the array hall had set up a teleportation array outside the ancestral lands of all the clans. The price to come to the sect of all times was 1 magnetite. Jinren Tonggu and Masato Katana were stunned again. The million-strong devil army was already shocking enough. How could there be so many clans flying out from the eternal sect? Judging from the fact that they were standing behind Jun Changxiao, it was obvious that they were following his lead. Everyone, Jun Changxiao said loudly, don't be afraid no matter what difficulties we encounter. Face them with a smile. The best way to eliminate fear is to face it. Perseverance is victory. Come on, Ali. The experts of the various clans looked at each other. My son. Suddenly a voice came from behind. Well said. The best way to eliminate fear is to face it. Whoosh. Gongsun Ruoli flew over and hovered in front of Jun Changxiao. Rows of flowers also came with her. Although she had not been out for long, and her appearance had not changed, the aura around her was obviously much stronger. "You're here? I'm here. You shouldn't have come. I still came." Everyone's mouth twitched. Was this a unique way of communication between husband and wife? The current situation was that 50 battleships were hovering at the highest point, and 200 million fighter jets covered half the sky like dark clouds. The captain stood proudly in front of his seat, and behind him were tens of thousands of truth-seeking slaves. On the side of the upper realm, the 10 great immortal sects and various sects gathered together. The itinerant cultivators gathered together, as well as the forces of various clans led by Jun Changshao on the Aeon Immortal Mountain. Such a scale, such a lineup. If a comic artist were to draw, he would definitely submit a resignation letter. The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "You're planning to resist stubbornly. Fine. Since you don't want to be slaves, then go and be dead." At this point, a strong killing intent gradually appeared in his eyes. He said, "Destroy all the living beings in this plane." "Yes, yes." The zombies roared, and violent energy instantly erupted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, the fighter jets gathered in the sky also began to move, indicating that a battle for the survival of the upper realm was about to begin. However, at this critical moment, an old man in a gray robe with a goatee slowly flew over with his hands behind his back. His appearance was very ordinary, the kind that could not be found in a crowd. However, ever since he appeared in their field of vision, all the martial artists unconsciously became solemn. "Oh," the middle-aged man touched his chin and said with interest, "Are you the hidden powerhouse with a combat strength of 10,000 in the upper realm?" "No." Hovering in the air, the old man smiled and said, "I'm just a storyteller who makes a living in the pugilistic world." "Speak. Books. People." Jun Changxiao's mouth gradually opened. Chapter 1609. He's here, he's here. He's holding a feather fan in his left hand and a gavel in his right. The powerhouses did not recognize this person, and Jun Changxiao had never seen him before. However, when he heard the word storyteller, he immediately recalled the all-knowing man in ganghood that Gu Zhaoxi had mentioned many times, but had never met. Very strong, the system said seriously. This was definitely nonsense. Although the appearance of this person was not grand, the tranquility and calmness he exuded was definitely that of an expert. Wait a minute. Could it be the mother that my father is looking for? Hiding her identity for decades and appearing as a savior in the upper realm's moment of life and death? Then putting on a show of family reunion? This won't do. I have to prepare a few tear gas bombs in advance. It'll be awkward if I can't cry. Just as Go Sheng was letting his imagination run wild, the system said speechlessly, "I'm afraid the host's bad habit of wanting to hug a powerhouse's thigh when he sees one can't be changed." Facing that captain, she's not at a disadvantage. Do you think she's a local? The system was speechless. Jun Changxiao said, "Since she's from the outer realm, there's a chance that she's my mother." "My son." Gongsun Ruoli said telepathically. "You know this person?" Jie. Jun Changxiao, who was soaring in his own fairy tale, suddenly stiffened and broke down. "Father, you don't know him?" "I don't." Smack. Reality slapped Go Sheng, causing him to deflate like a deflated balloon. Ha ha ha. Seeing that the host did not manage to scam a powerful mother, the system laughed heartily, almost sounding like a goose. "This person," Gongsun Ruoli said seriously, "his strength is above mine." There was only one possibility for him to be stronger than someone who was half a step into the third step. This seemingly simple old man had already entered the divine secret state. "Brother." Jun Changxiao was shocked. "The person you mentioned is a hidden powerhouse. From the appearance of the top powerhouses from the 10 great immortal sects, he had already determined that they should be half a step or close to it. None of them had truly entered the divine secret state. Otherwise, they would not have been so obedient after the captain's appearance. Reinforcements. Savior. Senior. Jun Changxiao cupped his hands and asked, "Do you know Gu Zhaoxi?" It didn't matter if she wasn't his mother. He could still use another angle to get closer to her. Gu Zhaoxi. The old man stroked his goatee. After thinking for a while he said, "It sounds familiar. Is it the little guy who fused with the reincarnation spirit I gave him?" Jun Changshao froze in place. Zhenren Tonggu and the experts from the 10 major celestial sects were also dumbfounded. Gu Zhaoxi had the reincarnation spirit. This was something that the upper realm knew, but they did not know that the special spirit seed that was born in the depths of the universe was actually given by this old man. My brother's reincarnation spirit was given to him by Senior? Jun Changshao asked in astonishment. Not bad. The storyteller said. He pestered me for a long time. In order to send him away, I casually gave him a spirit seed. Send them off. As they pleased, Jun Changshao suddenly felt a little dizzy. At first, he thought that this fleet captain was already very pretentious, but in the end, the storyteller who appeared was even more valiant. Indeed, there was always someone better than him. He was convinced. He was convinced. Sigh. Jun Changshao said to himself, rather ashamed. I still have a long way to go. Not only were the martial artists shocked, but the great spy demon ancestor was also shocked. He said in his heart, since when was there such a person in the upper realm? Although he had just been resurrected 100,000 years ago, he firmly believed that the probability of the upper realm giving birth to a divine arcanum was close to zero. Old man. The general kept the goblet in his spatial ring and shook off the cape on his shoulder. He said, judging from your aura, you don't seem to be a local. No. The storyteller shook his head and said, I was born and raised in the upper realm, but I left in my early years. I learned some decent skills from the outside, and after I came back, I started to focus on storytelling. Storytelling? The general said, a great hermit living in the city. He definitely did not think that this old man, whose aura was not weaker than his, would really be a storyteller. The decent skills he mentioned must be unfathomable. Otherwise, how could he not notice it? So strange. He Wudi, who was among the disciples, also muttered in his heart, this person is so strange. What was strange about him was indescribable. I can't afford to be a hermit, the storyteller said humbly. I just rely on my mouth to make a living. Everyone was speechless. You can still talk and laugh without changing your expression in the face of a divine arcanum, tens of thousands of truth-seeking realm, and so many flying monsters. Whoever thought that you were making a living in the martial world must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. Fine. The general did not intend to find out his identity and said, since you're out, let's fight. He was very pretentious when he appeared, but now he was very serious. Obviously, he was not like Go Sheng, who forced himself to be pretentious for the sake of being pretentious. When he encountered an opponent of equal strength, he would be serious. That's what I was thinking. The storyteller's expression was very calm, and he was not timid at all. He fully demonstrated what a true expert was. However, he paused and said, I want to add a bet. What bet? If you lose, leave the upper realm. What if I win? My life and death, and the upper realm's life and death are up to you. Okay, the general said, I'll bet with you. The storyteller glanced at the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects and the itinerant cultivators and said, disperse, lest you be affected by the fight. Senior, thank you. Jun Changshao cupped his fists and flew down without looking back. The others also retreated one after another. They even retreated far away before stopping. They muttered in their hearts, it should be safe here, right? The appearance of the storyteller undoubtedly gave the upper realm a chance to breathe. However, the powerhouses were still on tenterhooks, because this reclusive mighty figure could not defeat his opponent. In the end, he still could not escape death. Jun Changshao did not think so, but his mood was terrible. When the upper realm was in danger, it was a great opportunity to show off, but in the end, he could only be reduced to a bystander. If he did not shine in a certain key plot, it would be the biggest failure in the life of a fantasy novel protagonist. Don't be discouraged. The system comforted. I'm here. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and possess me. Sorry, I can't help. Just as Jun Changshao was depressed about the lack of gaming experience, the general gently raised his hand. The surrounding attributes suddenly gathered together, and all kinds of special effects burst out, making the post-production special effects artists cry. Terrifying. Terrifying. The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects were shocked. They had already realized that the middle-aged man's strength was extraordinary. Now that he had gathered half of the heaven and earth attributes in the sky with just a raise of his hand, they were still so shocked that their hearts trembled. The stronger the general's performance, the less Jun Changshao had any gaming experience. Not bad, the storyteller said indifferently. You have some ability. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the general gently raised 2 fingers. The gathered heaven and earth attributes were compressed rapidly, forming a bright light. The surrounding space was distorted and folded by the impact. This is a martial art that I created myself. It's called worship from all directions, he said proudly. I'll show you my incompetence today. Whoosh, he stretched out 2 fingers, and a light burst out like a water droplet. Crack, crack, wherever it passed. The space was instantly stirred into an unbearable mess, leaving behind scars that looked like they had been baked. This so-called worship from all directions, from the gathering to the display, seemed very ordinary, but the aura it emitted made all the martial artists in the upper realm feel pressured. The truth-seeking realm, the core transformation realm. In front of the divine secret realm, they were nothing more than ants. The storyteller smiled and said, coincidentally, I have a martial art called worship from all directions. Swoosh. After saying that, he waved his hand. Whoosh whoosh. Powerful heaven and earth attributes flew over from even further away, and then quickly gathered together to form a colorful defensive barrier. From afar, it looked like a rushing waterfall hanging in the sky. Too strong. Under the interference of the 2 forces, Jun Changshao was shocked. Yes, he often used cheats. However, after witnessing the battle between 2 third-step martial artists with his own eyes today, even if it seemed like a probing exchange, it made him feel insignificant. Boom! At this moment, the light collided with the light curtain, and there was an ear-shattering sound, and the surrounding space instantly collapsed as if it was the end of the world. Whoosh! Whoosh! The aura of the stormy waves lasted for a while, and then gradually disappeared into nothingness. Jun Changshao and the other powerhouses hurriedly looked over, but they did not find the storyteller, so they all guessed in their hearts. Did he dodge it? Wait a minute. When did a huge pit appear underground? Everyone subconsciously released their spiritual senses, and soon found the storyteller in the pit with his eyelids rolled up and foaming at the mouth. Jie! The atmosphere suddenly froze. Even the general was dumbfounded. No way. After a while, Jun Changshao held his head and roared. He appeared so casually, and he was defeated so casually. I understand now. He Woody, who could not figure it out, spied on the storyteller's aura again, and hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Patriarch, this guy is bluffing. His true strength is only at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Chapter 1610. From the moment he appeared to the moment he attacked, the storyteller gave everyone the impression that he was a reclusive cultivator with unfathomable depths. In the end, he was knocked to the ground by a single move. This reversal was so fast that Jun Changshao and the other martial artists almost fell to the ground. Peak of the truth-seeking realm? Gongsun Ruoli's expression became interesting. That was not right. He looked unfathomable just now. Why was his aura not as good as hers now? Fuck. Jun Changshao broke down. Don't tell me this guy's so-called decent ability is to stick 2 onions on his nose and pretend to be an elephant. My turn. I can do it too. Back then, Go Sheng went to the alchemy hall and specially spent 500 reputation points to buy a bluff suit. In terms of bluffing, he was definitely not weaker than anyone else. Why was it useless? The storyteller came from the star spirit realm to cause trouble. If he used it to impersonate him, unless he had an overwhelming aura, he would definitely be exposed in a real battle. Besides, even if the bluff suit could disguise oneself as an expert, Why would it pretend to be a third-step powerhouse? Therefore, this kind of prop used to bluff had to be used according to the occasion. If it was used carelessly, the outcome would be the same as the storyteller. Of course, it was already good enough that the storyteller was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. However, the upper realm was in danger at this moment. A powerhouse of this level obviously could not create miracles, let alone become a savior. Damn it! Anger gradually appeared in the general's eyes as he stood in midair. When the storyteller appeared, he regarded him as a strong opponent, but in the end, he was deliberately playing with him. Die! Whoosh whoosh! The general raised his hand angrily, gathered the surrounding energy of heaven and earth, and blasted it toward the sunken ground like a cannonball. Boom boom boom. The power of anger bombarded the ground again and again, and the sunken area continued to extend. The corners of Jun Changshao and the other martial artists' mouths twitched. Since the storyteller was not at the truth-seeking realm, he would definitely die after being bombarded so crazily. However, when the general stopped and the dust gathered around dissipated, they saw that the storyteller was still lying in the deep pit that spread even wider, still rolling his eyes and foaming at the mouth. Jun Changshao and the others were stunned. The general also had a look of disbelief as he said, "How is this possible?" The top experts present here had basically determined the true strength of the storyteller. But it was truly inconceivable that he was still able to remain unscathed after suffering a round of bombardment. Unless, can this guy take a beating? Boom! Boom! The general continued to gather power and attack. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth howled, and the space was stirred up to the point that it was gradually collapsing. After a while, the storyteller was still lying in the deep pit. Although he looked a little miserable, he still maintained that state, like a cockroach that could not be killed. Impossible! The general roared angrily. Impossible! This fellow's strength was clearly far inferior to his, and killing him could be said to be a piece of cake. But why was he still able to withstand the bombardment for so long? AI! At this moment, the storyteller stood up slowly from the deep pit. He first brushed off the soil and flew out. He sat cross-legged on the ground and summoned a small table. Pa! The gavel was placed down. Shwa! He gently waved the feather fan. After a short period of preparation, the storyteller began to speak in an exaggerated tone. Speaking of which, a long, long time ago, when the upper realm was first opened and the heavens and earth withered, the first batch of living beings were born. Jun Changshao and the martial artists were speechless. Big brother, why are you talking about books at such a critical moment? Understood. The general seemed to have understood something and sneered. If I'm not wrong, you should be deliberately stalling for time. The storyteller's eyes flickered slightly. Obviously his thoughts had been guessed. However, the general said indifferently, to be able to withstand so many bombardments and still be able to stand up, your strength shouldn't be so weak. Could it be that it's not your original body? Not my original body. Jun Changshao was stunned. Sigh. The storyteller shook his head and said, have I been discovered? That's right. He generously confessed. This is just an incarnation of mine. Because of my attachment to my hometown, I left it in the upper realm. Damn. This was a little explosive. Jun Changshao and the martial artists were dumbfounded. They originally thought that this fellow was a bluffing liar, but they did not expect the plot to turn around again. TSK. The general said, even an incarnation has such a cultivation base. I'm very curious, how strong is your original body? You'll see soon, the storyteller said. The general crossed his arms and said proudly, don't disappoint me. He had already guessed that the storyteller was deliberately stalling for time, probably waiting for his original body to rush over. Since that was the case, he would give the upper realm a chance to survive. Although he had come on orders this time to take revenge, he still wanted to fight with a combat strength of more than 10,000. Don't worry, the storyteller said. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. The general insisted on waiting for his original body to come, so the slaves gathered around him, and the fighter jets that filled the sky did not attack. The storyteller's stalling tactic was very successful. However, he was worried in his heart. It will take some time for my original body to come to the upper realm. I'm afraid that this fellow won't be able to wait, and will destroy all living beings first. Sigh. He was too careless. If he had known that the invader was very strong, he would have rushed over earlier. The general was waiting for the storyteller's original body. Jun Changshao and the various martial artists were also waiting, hoping that he could save the people from the fire and water. Buzz! A few hours later, the space suddenly trembled slightly, as if it had been cut open by a sharp sword, and fine sword marks appeared. Whoosh whoosh! A special airwave emerged from the crack, and instantly filled the entire upper realm. His original body was here? The general turned his head to look, his eyes flickering with fighting spirit. The aura that appeared was not strong, but his intuition told him that his strength should be extraordinary. Jun Changshao and the various martial artists also locked onto the torn crack, their expressions extremely serious. What's going on? The storyteller was stunned. At this moment, all the martial artists present thought that his original body had come. In fact, he knew best that it would take at least a few days to reach the upper realm. Moreover, even if he had come in advance, he should not have torn space. Crack! Crack! The space continued to tear, and the traces gradually expanded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Suddenly, 3 streams of light flew out from the crack and stopped in the sky of the upper realm. When the light dissipated, a middle-aged man with an honest appearance, a woman with a child in her arms, and a monster with a human body and a crocodile head appeared. Everyone was stunned. There was more than one original body of this storyteller. There were men and women, old and young, and there was even someone who was neither human nor ghost. In-law, the crocodile head, who had just arrived in the upper realm, was rather surprised. I didn't expect that the end of the space-time tunnel would be connected to a plane. Yeah, the middle-aged man said. It's a little unbelievable. At this moment, he noticed countless fighter jets and dozens of steel warships gathering in the distant sky. He narrowed his eyes and said, "This thing looks a little familiar." The woman beside him whispered, "Not long after our son was born, similar warships appeared in the mountain and sea realm. They were all destroyed by our husband's axe." Pa! The middle-aged man slapped his forehead and said, "I remember now. Mountain and sea realm?" The general's gaze gradually turned cold as he said, "Could it be that you were the one who destroyed the 4th fleet of the Star Spirit realm?" Chapter 1611. The main purpose of the Astral Spirit Realm fleet was to explore the unknown universe and plunder the energy of the planes. The 3rd and 4th fleets entered the vast ocean system at the same time. One discovered the upper realm, and the other discovered the mountain and sea realm. In the end, one was destroyed and the other was destroyed. Although they failed, they sent the location of the 2 realms back to the Astral Spirit Realm before they were destroyed, so they would definitely retaliate. The 1st fleet came to destroy the upper realm, and then the mountain and sea realm. Now the middle-aged man who suddenly ran out of the crack mentioned the battleships. So the general guessed that he was the murderer? That's right. I was the one who destroyed them. Since he did it, he had to admit it. That was the true colors of a man. At this point, the identity of the martial artists who came out of the crack was self-evident. They were the Gu couple, and the realm lord of the mountain and sea realm. As for Gu Zhaoxi, who was lying in his mother's arms, he stared at the familiar environment with mixed feelings. After another reincarnation, he left the upper realm. However, just 2 years later, he came back in a special way. Home. My home. Gu Zhaoxi's eyes moistened. After experiencing countless reincarnations, his state of mind should be very strong. But at this moment, there was an invisible force that made him want to cry. Gua. His mother comforted him. What's wrong? Gu Zhaoxi could not tell the truth, so he pointed at the dozens of battleships in the sky and burst into tears. These things are too scary. His mother, who was originally kind, suddenly looked cold. Father, your son is crying. What do you think we should do? Understood. Gu Tianqing waved his hand, and the axe appeared out of thin air. The general gritted his teeth and said, "You destroyed the Astral Spirit Realm fleet. and you will pay with your life. Strictly speaking, the third and fourth fleets were his subordinates. They fell one after another in the vast ocean system, which was a heavy loss. Now that the murderer had appeared, there was no way they could survive. What? Gu Tianqing said. You're with them? Jun Changshao seemed to have turned invisible because they were not on the same level. To be exact, the invasion of the outside world was beyond his ability. If not for the Moang soldiers and mechas, he would not even be qualified to give the camera a close-up. Gu Zhaoxi, who was in his mother's arms, saw Jun Changshao and was stunned. He looks a little familiar. There were countless martial artists in the upper realm. To be able to see them in the vast sea of people, this was probably the special power that came from the brothers of life and death. Unfortunately, although Jun Changshao had discovered Gu Zhaoxi, other than thinking that he was very cute, he did not notice anything else, let alone think that he was his brother who had reincarnated. Who are they? The storyteller muttered in his heart. Very strong. He frowned and thought to himself, could it be from a higher plane? Who? Right at this moment, the general gathered the power of heaven and earth, transforming it into an incomparably huge palm print that pressed down on Gu Tianqing, saying, Star Spirit Heavenly Suppression. Star Spirit Heavenly Suppression? Mrs. Gu came to a realization. So they are from the Star Spirit world. In the face of the vast palm print pressing down, Gu Tianqing acted as if he did not see it and said indifferently, this world seems to like to plunder other planes. They should be here to cause destruction. Father, Gu Zhaoxi cried out. So scary. This guy was definitely acting. He definitely wanted his father to take care of him quickly. Sure enough, when he heard his son's cry, Gu Tianqing could not suppress his anger and directly slashed over with his axe. Whoosh, a saber light that seemed to pierce through heaven and earth tore out, and the huge palm print was instantly cut in half, leaving a deep saber mark in the entire sky. Damn! Jun Changshao's eyes widened. When the storyteller and the general fought just now, the special effects were already maxed out. However, compared to this honest-looking middle-aged man's axe strike, it was simply dwarfed. Whoosh! The axe burst out and directly hit a warship. Boom! Flames soared into the sky and clouds rose. Gah! The upper realm was completely silent, and the atmosphere was a little scary. The general turned his head in disbelief and saw that a secondary warship had been destroyed. His heart was in turmoil. General! At this moment, his subordinate reported in his ear. According to the latest analysis of the data, the man and woman who suddenly appeared have a combat strength of more than 10,000. More than 10,000. This concept was very vague, because 23,000 could also be classified as more than 10,000. Whoosh! Suddenly, an axe flew out from nearby again, and hit the second warship with a powerful force that cut through space. The entire fuselage quickly split in half, and then fell to the ground with a boom. One axe, one kill. How terrifying! All the martial artists in the upper realm, including the storyteller, were shocked at this moment. Gu Zhaoxi was a little arrogant. At this moment, he wished he could announce his identity in his previous life loudly, and let the upper realm envy him for having an awesome father. You! The general turned around stiffly, his eyes flickering with fear. Boom! Boom! At this moment, dozens of axe lights brushed past him, and dozens of warships in the sky were quickly cut in half. Bang bang bang! Bang bang bang! One by one, the drones were attacked by some kind of pressure and exploded on the spot. The sky flickered, showing a spectacular scene like fireworks. Swoosh! After a while, Gu Tianqing put away his axe and said lightly, I'll spare your life today. Go back and tell the realm master of the Star Spirit realm that I, Gu Tianqing, am in the Sea Department. If he dares to invade again, I'll personally go and ask him for a lesson or two. The fear in the general's heart grew stronger. This person actually mentioned the realm master of the Star Spirit realm. Could it be that he was on the same level as the old man? He could not afford to offend him. After coming to the upper realm, he had been very calm from beginning to end. However, in front of Gu Zhaoxi's father, He no longer had the demeanor of a powerhouse. He was more like a frightened bird. Scram, Gu Tianxing said lightly. He could easily kill this general. But if he did not send him back to deliver the message, with the Star Spirit Realm style, they would definitely send people to kill him. Go! The general hurriedly shouted. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, nearly 10,000 slaves returned to the only remaining warship, and then quickly fled the upper realm with their tails between their legs. Damn it! The demon ancestor, who was in front of the cabin window, looked at the world that was gradually fading away, and roared unwillingly. I'll be back! We're safe! We're safe! Seeing the invaders escape with heavy losses, the martial artists in the major cities of the upper realm cheered. Sigh! Jun Changshao shook his head and said, There's no sense of experience, no sense of participation. The system said, This also means that the host's path to becoming a powerhouse is still very long. Yes. Jun Changshao clenched his fists and said, I will always work hard to become stronger until I have the strength to compete with powerhouses of this level. The storyteller was also hurt. After hiding in the upper realm for so long, it was not easy for him to encounter a scene of saving the world. In the end, it was snatched away by a simple and honest middle-aged man who suddenly appeared. Sigh! What a failure! In the future, it was better to tell stories honestly. If it really did not work, he would change to writing books. Chapter 1612. The Upper Realm. The dozens of axes that were left behind in the sky were extremely eye-catching. 49 warships were cut in half at the waist, falling in different positions between the mountains and rivers. The fact that they could remain intact after falling from a high altitude showed how strong their defense was. In the end, they still could not withstand the axes of Gu Zhaoxi's father. Whoosh! Whoosh! Not long after the catastrophe in the upper realm, several Diablo warships flew over. There were at least a few thousand of them. Under the command of Zhong Yi, they stopped in front of the broken warships and used their strength to lift them up. Then they carried them back to the Sect like ants moving house. These damaged flying warships were nothing more than a pile of scrap metal to the various martial artists. However, to the Taishan Taoists, they were definitely treasures. That was because there were various formations left on them that could be used for research. After half a day, except for a few warship wreckages that were taken away by the 10 major immortal sects, the rest were moved to the ancient immortal mountain. The members of the array hall moved out together. They stood in front of the wreckage, as if they were professional technicians, analyzing and calculating all kinds of data. Grand Elder. After a while, Shengguan Xinyao said, although the main warship was damaged, according to preliminary analysis, there is a backup formation inside. It should be able to be repaired and activate some of its functions. The Taishan Taoist smiled and said, Not bad, not bad. There was a limit to the technology that a drone could study. Now that there was a main warship that still had a formation that could be activated, if they could learn a thing or two from it, they would definitely gain a lot. The array hall began to work overtime on the research. Jun Changshao was relieved to leave this kind of research to the Taishan Taoist, so he focused all his attention on entertaining the Gu couple. At this moment, he stood shamelessly in front of the spatial rift and said, Senior, if you don't mind, please come to my sect. The powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects who stood in the distance all rolled their eyes. He destroyed almost all of the warships and saved the upper realm from the catastrophe. He was definitely their savior. However, because Gu Tianxing's strength was too strong, they did not dare to take the initiative to talk. Instead, that guy beat them to it. The old saying was right. A shameless person was invincible. No need. Gu Tianxing declined, saying, We still need to return to the mountain and sea realm. At this moment, he had completely lost the ferocity and aggressiveness of the destroyer battleship. He had returned to being a seemingly simple and honest middle-aged man. Protecting the upper realm from disaster is a great kindness. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, On behalf of the upper realm, I would like to hold a banquet to express my gratitude. Please do not decline. His words were beautiful, but the 10 great immortal sects and the martial artists of various paths weren't happy. What right did a Xian sect have to represent the higher realms? Where were they supposed to be? Jinren Tonggu was also speechless. He thought to himself, this disciple is really shameless. He. Only now did he realize this. Gu Tianxing looked at his wife, seeking her opinion. Mrs. Gu said, our son must be hungry after such a long journey. Since they are inviting him, why should he refuse? All right. Gu Tianxing smiled and said, then I will have to trouble you. Senior saved the upper realm from disaster. Even if I have to spend all my savings, it is only right for me to hold a banquet. At this point Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, please. Please. Go Sheng led the Gu couple and the mountain and sea realm lord to the sect of all times. This made the experts of the 10 great immortal sects envious. They were all annoyed. If they had known this would happen, they would have shamelessly greeted them in advance. Sigh. Compared to that kid, they were too thin-skinned. Sect of all times. Lu Wanshur led the members of the cafeteria and began to get busy. The banquet was still the same as the Manchu Han Imperial Feast. Jun Patriarch Gu Tianxing, who was sitting in the main hall, retracted his spiritual sense and praised. To be able to manage a sect to such an extent, it is not easy. He had already scouted the strength of the sect's disciples and found that many of them did not seem to have high aptitudes. But they were all in the core transformation realm. This was a bit unbelievable. Martial aptitude determined the upper limit. An ordinary person shouldn't have such a high cultivation base. Senior Gu, you flatter me, Jun Changshao said humbly. Junior's current achievements were built on the blessings of my ancestors. Oh, Gu Tianxing was interested and asked, who are your ancestors? This. Jun Changshao pretended to be troubled. If it is not convenient for you to reveal, I will not force you, Gu Tianxing said. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, Senior Gu, to be honest, the sect of all times was founded by the 7 profound sage. Ooh, Gu Tianxing's eyes widened. 7 profound sage. The one who created the 7 profound sunglow break. That's right. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. So he had heard of the 7 profound sage. This made things easier. The Gu couple and the mountain and sea realm lord were shocked. If such a powerful expert was so shocked after hearing about the 7 profound sage, could it be that his cultivation was above theirs? Jun Patriarch Gu Tianxing said in a doubtful tone. Is this sect of all times really a martial arts legend created by Senior 7 Profound? When he said the words martial arts legend, his tone was obviously filled with respect. Of course. Jun Chang smiled and said, this kind of swindling under the name of a powerhouse is something that this junior disdains and would never do. Tui. The system could not help but spit. However, it had to admit that the host was able to say it without batting an eyelid under the questioning of a powerful expert. It was truly outstanding. Gu Tianxing laughed. Obviously, he would not believe it. Senior Gu, if you have any doubts, please. Let's eat. Gu Tianxing was sure that this kid was bragging, so he forcefully changed the topic. Jun Changshao said, that's fine. After using this trick thousands of times, he finally suffered a setback. Why? Why does it feel so familiar? Gu Xiaoxi walked around the sect of all times alone, and his mind was in a mess. From the moment he stepped into the sect of all times, he felt that this place was familiar, but he could not remember where. It was a bit painful. I've been here before. Gu Xiaoxi stopped and held his head. He said firmly in his heart, I've definitely been here before. Because he was only 2 or 3 years old, the disciples of the sect of all times did not stop him and allowed him to walk around the sect. 15 minutes later, Gu Xiaoxi arrived at the back mountain of the sect of all times. Jun Changshao had stored the sect's facilities in his spatial ring in advance, so this place was quite desolate. He could even clearly see deeper inside. Creak. Suddenly, Gu Xiaoxi stopped in his tracks. His expression was stiff. His clear eyes were fixed on the tombstone in the back mountain, because the words Tomb of Elder Gu Xiaoxi of the Sect of All Times were engraved on it. My tomb? Or was it just a coincidence that they had the same name? Gu Xiaoxi hurried over. When he saw the picture pasted on the tombstone, and the chains placed below, his mind seemed to explode. Memories flooded in like a flood, interweaving into a bizarre scene before his eyes. Ah! He hugged his head and squatted on the ground. His cute face gradually turned sinister. I remember now. I finally remember. Chapter 1613. Gu Xiaoxi remembered the upper realm. He remembered many things, except for the most crucial memories. Therefore, when he came to the sect of all times, he felt a sense of familiarity, but he could not recall it no matter how hard he tried. I've been here before. Gu Xiaoxi always believed in this. As expected, when he saw his tomb and saw the finely crafted chains, the memories sealed in the depths of his consciousness emerged. What did this mean? The best way to treat amnesia was to bring the patient back to the old place. Gu Xiaoxi stood up and said, "No wonder it feels so familiar. I was an elder of the sect of all times in my past life." But he said blankly, "How did I join? How did I die?" This guy remembered that he was an elder of the sect of all times in his past life, but he could not remember how he joined or how he died. It seemed like he needed a professional treatment to completely recover. "Gua, it's time to eat." Mama Gu's voice rang in his ears. Gu Xiaoxi stopped thinking and went to the cafeteria. Because most of his memories had recovered, he was familiar with the way there. It even felt more like home. The Manchu Han Imperial feast was served. Light shone everywhere, and the special effects were maximized. Jun Changshao said humbly, "It's just plain tea, please forgive me." The Gu couple's expressions became interesting. They had not seen such a luxurious feast since they lived in seclusion. "Please, please." As soon as they finished speaking, Gu Xiaoxi ate without hesitation, looking very funny. Under the deep stimulation of the delicious food, more of his memories were unsealed, allowing him to remember a lot of his past life in the sect of all times, especially when he often pestered Lu Wanshi to cook for him. The taste was the same, and the recipe was the same. "It's so delicious." Gu Xiaoxi raised his little head, and tears flowed out uncontrollably. He ate memories, he ate feelings. "Gua," Mama Gu asked, "why are you crying?" "Gua." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched slightly. Were all the names given to the children of powerful figures so simple and unadorned? My nickname is also very low-key and introverted. Why am I not lucky enough to have parents who are so powerful? Some people would ask, Gongsun Ruoli? I'm sorry. He was an imposter. AI. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Comparisons are odious." "Mother." Gu Xiaoxi wiped his tears and said, "This meal is so delicious." He muttered in his heart, "I must restrain myself and not let the cat out of the bag." He recalled some memories of his life in the sect of all times, but he did not intend to acknowledge the patriarch. After all, his parents were present, and it would be bad news if word got out. Gu Xiaoxi had already planned out his future life. He would first be a strong second generation without any worries, and when he was stronger, he would go to the Jianghu. As for his previous life, he had to forget it, and he could not let his parents know. Jun Changshao and Yi Xingchen were obviously reincarnated through possession, while he was truly reincarnated. Although he could face the Gu couple calmly, he still felt a little guilty. After all, the reason for his reincarnation was the spirit of reincarnation. Husband Gu. Mama Gu smiled and said, "Gua is so happy that he's crying." She loved her son deeply. If Gu Xiaoxi was happy, she would be happy too. Ha ha ha. Gu Tianqing raised his cup and said, "Jun Patriarch, thank you for your hospitality." As the husband with the least status in the family, if his wife and son were happy, he would definitely be happier. Senior Gu. Jun Changshao drank a cup of wine, then looked at the crocodile monster beside him and said, "This is?" The realm lord of the mountain and sea realm was still putting on airs. He did not even pick up his chopsticks. If it were not for the Gu couple, he would have already gone back. He would not lower himself to eat at a sect. "I forgot to introduce you." Gu Xiaoxi put down his chopsticks and said solemnly, "This is the realm lord of the mountain and sea realm." Jun Changshao's eyes widened. He had learned about the existence of the mountain and sea realm from the star map in the fighter, but he did not expect that this ugly guy sitting next to him would be the realm lord. "Excuse me." Jun Changshao hurriedly stood up and raised his cup. "Excuse me." "Humph." The realm lord of the mountain and sea realm snorted coldly. Gu Tianxing knew that this guy was a beast and did not understand the ways of the world, so he smiled and said, "His daughter is engaged to my son, so we can be considered in-laws." It was over. This sentence provoked Go Sheng again. His parents were super powerful, and his father-in-law was the realm lord. He was truly the reincarnation of a god. However, if the father looked like this, how good could the daughter be? As expected, with a supreme status came a loss of happiness. If it were me, I would definitely consider it. The meal took about an hour. Although the Gu clan couple were very satisfied with the food, they didn't lose the demeanor of a powerful expert, nor did they follow the rules of taste. Instead, the haughty realm lord of the mountain and sea realm took a bite of the food, and then lost control of himself. Jun Patriarch. Outside the sect, Gu Tianxing cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your hospitality. Senior Gu saved the upper realm from disaster. This is what this junior should do." Jun Changshao said, but in his heart he was screaming, "You wiped your mouth and left after eating. You didn't even give me a chance to make friends. Goodbye. Goodbye." The Gu couple and the realm lord of the mountain and sea realm flew out of the sect of all times and merged into the spatial rift in the sky. Before leaving, Gu Xiaoxi looked back at the sect of all times reluctantly and said, "Just treat it as if Gu Xiaoxi is already dead." He did not miss the food. Instead, he yearned for the martial Tao. Pain. Heartache. Gu Xiaoxi followed his parents into the spatial rift. A strong sense of loss surged in his heart. He only remembered some things in the sect of all times. He did not remember that he and Jun Changshao were sworn brothers, nor did he remember that the reason for his death was to protect the people of the upper realm. He thought that they would reunite as brothers, but in the end, they were strangers. Sigh. Jun Changshao was also a little disappointed. As for the reason, there was no need to mention it. Patriarch. At that moment, Zhen Dejuan transmitted his voice. "I have a new discovery." Below the array formation peak, the main battleship from the star spirit world, that was broken in two lay there quietly. Due to the activation of the backup array in the cockpit, some of the facilities were operating. Jun Changshao walked in. Looking at the structure that resembled a spaceship, he exclaimed, "What a perfect combination of martial Tao and technology." Patriarch. Shengguan Xinyao said, "This main battleship has a more complete map of the universe." Oh. Jun Changshao walked over and saw a concave platform in the middle. A screen was projected on it. There were many planes and notes on it. Obviously, it was a more professional map of the universe. Furthermore, it included the lower realm. Jun Changshao only took a casual glance and found the Tianyuan continent. He frowned. A plane that exists in the upper realm has the ambition to touch the lower realm? He observed carefully. There was no falling star continent. This meant that the exploration of the lower realm had not extended to the entire universe. Beep, beep, beep. Suddenly, a sound similar to an alarm sounded. Jun Changshao turned to look at the screen in front of the cockpit. A line of words that he could not understand appeared on it. He asked the system for help. Translate it. Take a look for yourself. Whoosh! A special force surged into his sea of consciousness, allowing Jun Changshao to instantly understand the words that appeared on the screen. The content was the 10th fleet of the star spirit world, has explored the lower realm, and discovered a world called the Falling Star Continent. We are preparing to launch an attack. General, please give us instructions. Chapter 1614. The system gave Jun Changshao the ability to read the language of other planes, but it caused his eyes to be filled with murderous intent. Patriarch, what's wrong? Zhen Dejuan and Shengguan Xinyao were stunned. Everything was fine just now. Why was he suddenly filled with murderous intent? Boom! Suddenly, Jun Changshao slammed into the inner wall of the cockpit and said angrily, "If you dare touch my home, I'll destroy the astral soul realm. Don't say that. The system said. Hurry up and send instructions as a general. Tell them to give up attacking the falling star continent. Yes. Yes. Jun Changshao hurried to the screen but immediately roared weakly. This isn't a phone or a computer. There's no input method. How am I supposed to send instructions? The system fell silent. Although they knew that the 10th Fleet was attacking the falling star continent, how could they stop them if they did not know how to use it? Moreover, this kind of relatively advanced transmission must have identity recognition. It would be difficult for anyone who was not a general to be recognized. Patriarch. Zhen Dejuan asked, "What's wrong?" Jun Changshao read the words on the screen. When he and Shengguan Xinyao learned about it, they were extremely angry. Although the upper realm had stronger attributes in higher realms, to most people in the sect of all times, the falling star continent was their home. Now that it was targeted by a higher plane, the situation was definitely not optimistic. Patriarch. Zhen Dejuan said anxiously, "We have to go back and help." How do we go back? This question stunned him. It was easy to come up, but difficult to go down. At this moment, even though they knew that the falling star continent was in trouble, they could not sneak down because of the heavenly axiom's restrictions. Right. Jun Changshao thought of something and immediately called the black and white Rakshasa over. These two had been to the lower realm before, so they should have some special way to go back. After learning about this, the white Rakshasa said awkwardly, "Patriarch, we can use the heaven and earth reversal technique to sneak down to the lower realm. However, there's a limit to the number of people, and we can't escape the heavenly axiom's sanctions. Our realms will be suppressed to the void-piercing realm. How many people can you send?" 2. Jun Changshao felt depressed. He didn't care about the realm restriction, because he didn't believe that martial artists from the higher planes would remain at their peak when they came to the lower realm. As long as he brought enough people, he should be able to deal with them. At the same time, he could also act prettily. 2. All right. Jun Changshao said. Hurry up and send me to the lower realm. Patriarch. The Black Rakshasa said. The universe reversal grand technique can only transport revolving core realm martial artists. When Jun Changshao heard this, he slumped back into his seat. It didn't matter if there was a limit to the number of people. As long as he was sent down, even if he couldn't destroy the First Fleet with his own strength and cheat, he could still destroy the 10th Fleet. Master. Jun Changshao looked at the silent Taishan elder and asked, Is there any way? There's no other way. The Taishan old man shook his head. There was a way to get up, but there was no way to get down. At this time, the system said, it's still more reliable to refresh the store. That's the only way. Jun Changshao could only focus on the store. After all, when he first came to the upper realm, he relied on items to return. However, at this moment, the Taishan old man said, I can try to repair this battleship. Maybe there's a way to return to the lower realm. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Don't listen to him. The system said, who knows if the research will succeed? Even if it succeeds, it's too late. Indeed, Jun Changshao fell into deep thought. The falling star continent was in trouble. He couldn't waste any time. Although this battleship has been cut open, the overall structure hasn't been damaged. If it's moved into the space-time secret realm, it should be repaired in 4 to 6 hours, the Taishan old man said. Are you sure? I'm sure. Good, repair it quickly. The system broke down. This Taishan old man is deliberately going against me. On the same day, the battleship was sent into the space-time secret realm, and all the members of the array hall entered to repair it. Jun Changshao was very relieved to leave this matter to the Taishan old man, but because he was worried about the safety of the falling star continent, he deliberately came in to take charge of commanding, and even actively participated in the research. Sect of all times. The atmosphere was extremely tense. The disciples all knew that the 10th Fleet of the Star Spirit World was about to attack the falling star continent. At this moment, they were very worried and anxious because their families were in the lower realm. Second senior brother, Su Xiaoma said, Can we go back? Yes. Li Qingyang's eyes were firm. His and Su Xiaoma's parents were in the lower realm, especially their beloved women in Ironbone Town. Although they were burning with anxiety, they could still remain calm because of their trust in the patriarch. At this time, whether it was Long Xiang, Li Fei, or Li Tiantian, they were all anxiously waiting, praying that the falling star continent would not be attacked. Faster! Faster! In the space-time secret realm, Jun Changshao looked at the laborers while urging the members of the array hall to speed up the process. Unlike Li Qingyang, he did not have any blood relatives in the lower realm, but he had Aunt Wang, family head AI, city lord Xia and others. Naturally, he would not allow them to be hurt. In the lower realm, 10 steel warships were suspended in the darkness. Captain, in the main warship, a subordinate said. The general hasn't sent any instructions yet. Sitting in the command chair, a man in his early 20s held the side of his face with one hand and said, "It only takes 15 minutes to teleport from the lower realm to the upper realm. Why hasn't there been a reply?" Captain, the subordinate said, "This falling star continent is a bit strange. There are actually many more advanced teleportation arrays inside." Oh, the young man was quite surprised. The star spirit world he was in also had a teleportation system, but it was also created after a long time. It was beyond his imagination that a lower realm world had it. "We're not waiting anymore." He stood up and said, "Attack." Asking the general to give instructions was nothing more than a routine matter. Now that the warship was in the lower realm, as the captain of the 10th warship, he naturally had the absolute authority to give all kinds of orders. Yes. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, it was as if the 10 warships docked at the port quickly retracted their anchors and set sail. Falling star continent. In the few years since Jun Changshao left, there had been quite a lot of changes. First, because of the super teleportation array, many things had become much simpler than before. Second, because of the 12 patrol envoys, the entire world was harmonious and stable. On this day, Southwest Yangzhou was especially lively, because the original Ironbone clan had officially been established a few decades ago on this day. In order to commemorate this clan, and to remember the legend of Ascension, many forces and families spontaneously came to Qingyang City and Ironbone Town. Jun Patriarch. In the Yunlai, Xie Guangquan sat by the window and raised his wine glass to look at the sky. He said to himself, "I wonder if we will have a chance to meet again in the future." "It's impossible." Ai Shang shook his head and said, "A legend like Jun Patriarch is destined to make a name for himself in the upper realm. To him, the falling star continent is nothing more than the most inconspicuous temporary residence in the long years." "Impossible." Songshan Sect elder Ma Yinting walked in, because they were familiar with each other. He sat on the empty seat and said, "With Jun Patriarch's personality, he will definitely come back to visit us old friends." "That's right." Master AI said rather shamefully. "I said the wrong thing. I'll punish myself with a cup." Suddenly, the wine glass trembled, the table shook, and the entire Yunlai trembled. Everyone's expression changed slightly, and they hurried out. In the sky, the space gradually tore apart, and one after another huge behemoths flew in. "Creatures of the falling star continent, you are about to become slaves of the astral spirit world. This is a supreme honor. You should be grateful." Chapter 16:15. 10 battleships appeared uninvited and hovered in the sky of the falling star continent. The powerful aura they emitted immediately suppressed all living beings. "This is bad." Yunhe walked out of the Martial Alliance's main hall with a terrible expression. Before Jun Changshao ascended with his sect, he was worried that the falling star continent would encounter trouble in the future. Hence, he had set up various defensive formations outside the universe in advance. Now it did not stop them, and they did not even notice them. It was obvious that they were very powerful. Swish, swish. The 9 great martial emperors flew out from their seclusion and hovered below the battleships. Their expressions were also very serious. Currently, the the Martial Alliance, which was founded by Jun Changshao, had absolute authority in the falling star continent. However, the 9 of them were respected martial emperors after all. They would definitely stand out when the continent was in danger. What's wrong? A voice came from the main battleship. You're not convinced? Swish. Yunhee flew over and cupped his fists politely. Friend, let's talk nicely. I've already said. You'll become slaves. It was very arrogant and overbearing. It did not give the falling star continent any chance at all. Yunhee frowned and said, I'm afraid you don't know that the falling star continent is related to the upper realm? From the beginning, he had concluded that the other party did not come with good intentions. Moreover, the aura they emitted was extremely powerful. He could not go against them, so he could only scare them with his background. Haha. A laugh came from the main battleship. I'm afraid the upper realm you mentioned no longer exists. He had received the news that the First Fleet had attacked the upper realm. According to the time, they should have arrived at their destination and successfully destroyed it. The upper realm no longer exists. Yunhee's expression stiffened. My patience is limited. A voice came from the main battleship. I'll give you 15 minutes to consider. Otherwise. Swish. The main battleship's hatch suddenly opened. A beam of light shot out and landed in an uninhabited area of the falling star continent. It caused a deafening explosion and a majestic mushroom cloud. Yunhee, the 9 great martial emperors, and the others felt a chill down their spines. This power was enough to wipe out everything. It's over. Ma Yunting, Ai Shangyao, and the others who were in Ironbone Town lamented in their hearts. It's over this time. The 10 warships were emitting an absolute pressure, and the powerful beam of light that was shot out just now made them feel hopeless. Sect of all times. Space-time secret realm. Jun Changshao wiped the sweat from his forehead as he burned all kinds of ores with the power of the fire spirit. Taishian could repair the intricate array system inside the main battleship, but he would have to fuse the 2 broken sections back together. It's about time. Fan Yezi, who was standing to the side, said, It can be repaired. Shua. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the lava. Close. Zhongyi ordered. Hoo-hoo. The 10,000 mechas standing in front of the 2 halves of the battleship pushed them together, gluing them together. Zzz. Molten lava seeped into the cracks, and after cooling down, the cracks were completely closed. The system praised. With the host skills, you're at least at the level of a special grade welder. It's a bit of a waste of your talent to build aircraft carriers and space stations. Scram. Jun Changshao didn't have time to banter with him. He looked at the Taishian elder and said, Master, I'll leave the rest to you. Yes. The Taishian elder led the formation team into the main battleship and began to connect the various formation systems. Time passed little by little. All the participants, all the disciples waiting outside, were burning with anxiety. Outside. 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed. Second senior brother. Su Xiaoma clutched his chest and said, I have a bad feeling. Don't think too much. Although Li Qingyang looked calm, his heart was in a mess because he also felt a bad omen. Whoosh. At this moment, a huge battleship flew out of the space-time secret realm and hung above the sect of all times like rolling dark clouds. Because it blocked the sun, everything was dark. Success! We can go back to the lower realm. All the disciples were excited. Click. The bottom cabin of the main battleship gradually opened. Everyone. Jun Changshao's voice came. Follow me back to the falling star continent. Yes. Whoosh. 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 In an instant, 100,000 disciples flew up to the main battleship, followed by Sun Muching and other new members. When the falling star continent was in trouble, the whole sect was mobilized. In the control room, after racking his brains, the Taishian elder still put his palm on the formation mark. Whoosh, the steel battleship was activated and instantly entered the void. Please set the coordinates. A mechanical voice came. The lower realm. The falling star continent. Coordinates confirmed. Activating shuttle mode. Estimated time of arrival is 15 minutes. Whoosh, in the deep space. The battleship turned into a stream of light and flew toward the seemingly endless area at high speed. Soon, it reached the connection point of the upper and lower universes, ignoring the restrictions of heaven and earth and forcibly merging. Hum. Hum. The hull shook and quickly recovered. Go to the lower realm. The Taishian elder's mouth twitched slightly when he heard the notification. How powerful is the formation technology in the astral spirit realm? It can be so easy to sneak in. Patriarch, Su Xiaoma said in surprise. My realm is not suppressed. Me too. The disciples inside the battleship were all stunned. When they went to the lower realm, they were prepared to have their realms suppressed, but nothing happened. This is troublesome. Jun Changshao frowned. If his and his disciples' realms were not suppressed, the 10th fleet of the astral spirit realm would definitely be able to avoid it. Not to mention the truth-seeking realm. Even a rebirth core realm cultivator could kill the falling star continent in an instant. Hurry! Hurry! Whoosh! As they rushed forward anxiously, the falling star continent gradually appeared in their vision. We're about to reach our destination. The mechanical voice sounded on the battleship, instantly stirring the hearts of the disciples of the sect of all times, making them even more worried about whether their home had been destroyed. Whoosh! A moment later, it merged into the falling star continent. Li Qingyang, Su Xiaoma, and the others saw the dilapidated mountain see through the cabin, and their expressions gradually stiffened. Kill! Jun Changshao stood up and said with his eyes wide open. Kill them all. Crack! Crack! The bottom cabin slowly opened, and the disciples of the ancient sects who were born in this world, and then ascended to the upper realm flew out in anger. They gathered all kinds of forces and blasted at the drones that were constantly flying around. Captain! In the main battleship of the 10th fleet, a subordinate exclaimed, the main battleship of the 1st fleet is here. What? The middle-aged man who was tasting wine was stunned. He had sent instructions earlier, but the general did not reply. Why did he suddenly come in person? Boom! Suddenly, his outer body was violently attacked, sending him flying and crashing into the wall. When he stood up with difficulty, he saw a young man with endless anger in his eyes hanging outside the cabin. Boom! Boom! The 9 battleships nearby all exploded. Under the illumination of the flames and energy, that guy looked like a devil descending to the world. Captain, the subordinate said in horror. All 9 battleships are destroyed. Bang! Suddenly, Jun Changshao broke the glass of the cabin door with a punch and rushed in. He grabbed the neck of the man whose cultivation was only at the 9th refinement Dan realm, and said in a cold voice, contact the headquarters immediately, and tell them that I, Jun Changshao, am not a man until I destroy the astral spirit world. He was furious. He went berserk again. The reason was that the falling star continent was torn apart in a short time. Countless creatures died under the bombardment of the drones, and countless sects and cities turned into nothingness. Jun Changshao no longer cared whether his and his disciples' families were hurt or not. There was only one strong thought in his mind. The astral spirit world. I must destroy it. Chapter 16:16. Under the absolute power of the upper universe, the falling star continent couldn't even withstand a single blow. In a short time, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and the earth collapsed as if it was the end of the world. Jun Changshao floated in the air, blaming himself in his heart. Although he had torn apart the 10th warship and the captain, he had not arrived in time to save the people from the fire and water. He believed that he had an unshirkable responsibility for that. The system said, at least the host saved this world. Although the interior of the continent was severely damaged, the heavenly axiom system still existed. At least it meant that he came in time. If he was a step later, the falling star continent would definitely be gone. Ding! The host spent 1,000 reputation points and obtained the Mountain River Recovery Machine X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Swish! Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the item he just bought. It was a big iron box that hung in the air. All 4 doors opened, and elf-like creatures flew out and gathered in the falling star continent. Buzz buzz! The shattered space gradually healed, and the collapsed mountains and rivers gradually reconnected. The mountain river recovery machine, bought with reputation points, was much more professional than the terrain modification machine. It could completely restore the ruined world in a very short time. However, the destroyed cities and buildings couldn't be repaired, and the dead creatures couldn't be repaired either. This was a debt. Jun Changxiao wrote it down in a small notebook. He didn't have the strength to challenge the astral spirit world now, but he would definitely destroy it in the future. As the most valued martial arts holy land, Ironbone Town wasn't spared. Nearly 90% of the buildings were destroyed. The only thing worth celebrating was that there weren't too many casualties. City Lord Xia, family head AI, and the others were safe. In fact, although the falling star continent suffered a fatal blow, not many creatures died. The reason was that the 10th Fleet's order wasn't to destroy creatures, but to conquer them. Therefore they mainly destroyed their homes. Jun Patriarch. He blamed himself. I've disappointed you. He was the acting leader of the Martial Alliance, and his duty was to maintain world peace. The enemy is too strong. Jun Changxiao said. It's not your fault. Ma Yunting, AI Shangyao, and the others stood at the side. It was a happy thing to see Jun Patriarch again. But because of the disaster the falling star continent suffered, they all put on a bitter face. The next day, the cracked space and collapsed mountains and rivers had basically been restored to their original state. However, traces of mending could still be seen, and it would take time to slowly smooth them out. Taishan Xingzong, Bright Light Holy Sect, and other major sects began to rebuild after the disaster. After the disciples of the sect of all times cleaned up the battlefield, they reunited with their loved ones in Ironbone Town. The atmosphere turned from harsh to warm. Li Qingyang first paid his respects to his father before looking for Sister Qiao Er. The scene of them showing off their affection was not shown to the camera, in case it deeply stimulated some of the single people. Aunt Wang. Sitting in the half-collapsed Yunlai Inn, Jun Changxiao wiped his mouth and said, "Another bowl of noodles." With a golden chef like Lu Wanshur taking care of him, the food would definitely not be bad. However, he still had a special liking for Aunt Wang's noodles. This was because he had been rescued many times when he was at his worst. "When are you leaving?" Auntie Wang asked as she cooked the noodles. "In a few days." Jun Changxiao did not plan to stay in the Falling Star continent for long, because this place could no longer provide him with a higher martial realm. If he wanted to become stronger and settle the score with the Star Spirit world, he could only develop in the upper universe. Auntie Wang said, "A few years after you left, the Palace Lord of Miaohua Palace often came to Ironbone Town, and often stood in a daze in the empty space of Ironbone Mountain. Now that you're back, don't you plan to visit her?" She picked up the noodles and turned around. Jun Changxiao was already gone. Miaohua Palace. Zhang Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were organizing the disciples to rebuild the damaged sect. The space trembled, and Jun Changxiao appeared out of thin air. "Jun Patriarch." The Miaohua Palace disciples exclaimed. Zhang Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue's expressions turned ugly. "Both of you." Jun Changxiao retracted his spiritual thoughts and asked in confusion, "Where's Palace Lord Shi?" This question made Zhang Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue's expressions turn even uglier. There was even pain in their eyes. "What happened?" "Palace Lord Shi's missing." "Missing?" Jun Changxiao frowned. Just as Andy Wang said, Shi Jingxian would come to Ironbone Town every once in a while, but she never appeared again. The reason was that she was missing. One night 5 years ago, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky, and Palace Lord disappeared. Zhang Sun Fanghua recalled that day, her face already covered in tears. "Have you looked for her?" "I've been looking for her for the past 5 years." Jun Changxiao was silent. He released his spiritual thoughts and instantly enveloped the entire Falling Star continent, but he did not find Shi Jingxian. He immediately came to an answer in his heart. "She's not in this plane." "Could she have gone to other planes?" the system asked. After the Starry Sky Fortress was destroyed and replaced by the Falling Star continent, many planes often came to trade, so it had become very easy for martial artists to leave. "I'll go look for her." Jun Changshao left Miaohua Palace and blended into the universe. Soon he toured the surrounding plains. After entering the truth-seeking realm, and not having his realm suppressed, he, who was in the lower universe, could cross the void with a snap of his fingers and spread across all the plains. He could be said to be an omnipotent god. However, after searching for a few days and hundreds of plains, Jun Changshao still did not find Shi Jingxian, so he stopped in the universe and guessed, she's not in the lower realm. Could it be that she went to the upper realm? The system said, that girl can reach the Grand Emperor level in just a few years. Maybe she used some method to sneak up. Jun Changshao guessed. The system was silent. It was not impossible for a low-level martial artist to sneak up by relying on a warship to bring an entire sect back to the lower realm. Jun Changshao returned to the falling star continent. The traces of the stitches in the sky had completely disappeared. The order of heaven and earth was operating normally, and the lost spiritual energy was gradually recovering. Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han said, you're finally back. He hurried over when Jun Changshao went to Miaohua Palace, but he ended up waiting for several days in Ironbone Town. What's the matter? Let me show you something. City Lord Han took out a treasure that looked like a bronze mirror, and the scene of the sky being torn apart repeatedly appeared on it. This is? Jun Changshao asked. City Lord Han said, 5 years ago, there was a natural anomaly, and it just so happened that the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony was holding. This Han used a projection array to record this scene. Jun Changshao hurriedly took it, and looked at it carefully several times. The captured anomaly only existed for a short period of time, but the entire process was as if space was torn apart by a large hand. It's man-made, Jun Changshao confirmed. The system said. To be able to tear space so easily, this power definitely came from the upper realm. Natural anomaly, Palace Master Shi's disappearance. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, could it be that she was taken away by the person who tore space? That's possible. It was rare for the two of them to agree. Jun Changshao was puzzled. Palace Master Shi's strength is not high. Why would an expert spend so much effort to take her away? The system said, there is a special energy in that girl's body. Could it be hiding some secret? Jun Changshao fell silent. Ever since he cured Shi Jingxuan's eye disease, he did not think about that special attribute. After all, it did not bring her any harm. Now that the system mentioned it, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Is it a blessing or a curse that she was taken away? It should be a blessing. If it's a curse, then why would the person who tore space go through so much trouble to take her away? I hope so. Miaohua Palace was one of the two allies of the sect of all times, so Jun Changshao naturally did not want Palace Master Shi to be in trouble. Qingyang, pass down the order, we'll return tomorrow. Yes. Chapter 16-17. The next day, Jun Changshao and the disciples of the sect of all times left on Eternal. Eternal was the main battleship of the First Fleet. As it was completely controlled by Go Sheng, it became the private property of the sect of all times. In the future, he would have to rely on it to go to the astral spirit world. After all, it had detailed coordinates and could save a lot of time. The relatives of the disciples were still in the falling star continent. They could have gone to the upper realm, but because of their mediocre aptitude, living in a lower realm was the best choice. Jun Changshao did not force it. Since they had Eternal, the disciples could come back to visit at any time. Moreover, there were many secondary battleships that were cut in half in the sect. He could let the Taishian Elder try to repair them and build a fleet of battleships. Master, sitting in the cockpit, Jun Changshao asked, can the 10 battleships that were shot down in the falling star continent be repaired? There shouldn't be a problem, the Taishian Elder said. However, these battleships are made of ordinary materials. Although they can be used to travel through the universe, they might not be able to withstand the bombardment of a top powerhouse. The 10th Fleet was ordered to enter the lower realm to search for slaves and realm energy. Therefore, The battleships were not of a high level, which was why Jun Changshao was able to destroy them one by one. If it were the third and first fleets that invaded the upper realm, it would definitely be difficult. After we go back, we have to develop diligently. The astral spiritual world appeared one after another, threatening either the upper realm or the lower realm. This made Jun Changshao feel powerless. Therefore, he decided to work hard and wait for the sect to become stronger. After completing the main mission, he would go and blow it up. Gosheng was a petty person. As long as it was recorded in his little notebook, he would definitely settle the score, even if it had nothing to do with the mission. The vast universe was endless. In a certain galaxy, there was a realm surrounded by flowing light. This was the astral spirit world that Jun Changshao had recorded. As the camera zoomed in, large battleships could be seen flying or hovering in the air. Strange creatures of all shapes and sizes were walking around the city. The creatures here came from various realms. Some were slaves, some were natives. In terms of overall strength, it was obviously much higher than the upper realm. Inside the palace, a slender man leaned back in his chair and looked at the words that appeared on the light screen with interest. The content was I, Jun Changshao, swear not to be human until I destroy the star spirit world. Jun Changshao. He rubbed his nose and said disapprovingly, "How arrogant." "My lord." At this moment, a subordinate walked in and cupped his hands. "The captain of the first fleet has returned." "Humph," the man said coldly. "You still have the face to come back when you haven't completed your mission." "My lord." The general of the first fleet walked in and knelt on one knee. He said respectfully, "When I was attacking the upper realm, Gu Tianqing suddenly appeared." "Gu Tianqing?" the man said in surprise. "Didn't this guy already live in seclusion? Why would it appear in the upper realm?" The general said, "Gu Tianqing has said that the upper realm will be under his protection. If our star spirit world invades again, we will look for the realm master to discuss it." "TSK," the man said disdainfully. "Do you really think you're a big shot? You dare to argue with the realm master?" The subordinate standing beside him said, "My lord, Gu Tianqing is one of the top experts in the upper universe. You must not underestimate him." "All right," the man said indifferently. "Then I'll give him face and let the upper realm off for now." Swish! The sect of all times traveled through space and hung in the Aeon Immortal Mountain. The nearby martial artists were stunned, if not for the fact that they saw the disciples of the sect of all times jumping out of the hatch one after another. They would have suspected that the star spirit world had sent another warship to attack. "Master," after returning to the sect, Jun Changshao reminded, "Please pay more attention to the repair of the warship." Needless to say, the Taishan elders would also be very attentive. After all, the joy of a technological geek was to research technology. Jun Changshao called Shui Rengui over and instructed him to train the members diligently. The upper echelons and disciples realized that the patriarch was preparing to attack the star spirit world in the future, so they consciously focused on cultivation. Patriarch. As soon as he returned to his residence, Li Qingyang sent a voice transmission. "The storyteller is here." "Why is he here?" Jun Changshao was surprised for a moment and said, "Please invite him to the main hall." "Yes, in the main hall of the sect." The storyteller sat down and said with a smile, "I've long heard of Jun Patriarch's great name. Seeing you today, you really live up to your reputation." The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior, you flatter me." If he had not been beaten up by the Star Spirit World General, he would definitely be very respectful. But now he felt that this guy was a little unreliable. "Jun Patriarch." The storyteller smiled and said, "I'm here today to tell you something." "Senior, please speak," Jun Changshao said. The storyteller slammed the gavel on the table and said, "Do you remember the expert who appeared in the sky and saved the upper realm?" "I remember. This person is not simple." Jun Changshao muttered in his heart. "Isn't that obvious?" Who among the martial artists who had experienced the previous calamity could not tell that Gu Tianqing was not simple? Especially his 2- or 3-year-old son, the storyteller said. Jun Changshao would not deny this. His parents were awesome, and his father-in-law was the realm lord of the mountain and sea realm. He was only 2 years old, and he was already at the void-piercing realm. When he grew up, he would definitely be even more terrifying. Sigh. Why am I not as lucky as him? The storyteller said solemnly. According to my observation, there should be a reincarnation spirit in that child's body. What? Jun Changshao stood up. No matter what spirit seed it is unique in the universe, the storyteller said. Senior, you mean? Jun Changshao could not control his emotions and said, that child is my life and death brother Gu Xiaoxi? That's right. The storyteller nodded. Jun Changshao sat down again and began to think seriously. During the meal, Gu Tianqing had said that his son was 2.5 years old. According to the time of Gu Xiaoxi's death, if he was reincarnated, he should be at this age. Patriarch Su Xiaomo ran in a panic and said, the chain in front of Elder Gu's tomb is gone. Who took it? Some fellow disciples saw that Senior Gu's son had gone to the back of the mountain. Did they think it was fun, so they took it away? If the reincarnation spirit could not confirm Jun Changshao's suspicions, then if the chain was taken away by the other party, he would firmly believe that it was his brother, Gu Xiaoxi, because that thing was a testimony to the friendship between the two of them. Jun Patriarch. The storyteller said, the upper realm is very small in the vast universe. If you want to become stronger, you need to go out and gain more experience. Senior, you have a point. Through the fighter jets and battleships left in the star spirit realm, Jun Changshao realized that there were stronger existences outside the upper realm, and he still had a long way to go. Goodbye. The storyteller left. Although they did not talk much, he gave Jun Changshao a piece of breaking news, which was comparable to a spoiler system mission. Brother. Jun Changshao walked out of the main hall, looked up at the sky, and said secretly, when I complete the main mission of the upper realm, I will go to the mountain and sea realm to find you. The storyteller came this time to tell him that Go-Wa had the reincarnation spirit, and that the upper realm was extremely small in the universe. Obviously, he intended to let Go Sheng go out to gain experience, but he did not have the intention to start an interstellar journey for the time being. He still prioritized the development of the sect first. Besides, he had just entered the realm of truth-seeking, so it was not enough for him to go out. Chapter 16:18. For the sake of Gu Tianqing, the astral world would not attack the upper realm for the time being, so it would be relatively peaceful for a period of time. However, after experiencing 2 invasions, Jun Changshao felt powerless. He did not even have the gaming experience, and this was because he was too weak. What should he do? He must become stronger. The storyteller provided Jun Changshao with a path to become stronger, which was to start interstellar navigation and travel the universe. Not now, because of the restrictions of the main mission. Therefore, the first thing to consider was to develop the sect into an immortal sect. The arranged battle between Master and Gu Hongzhenren is coming soon. How can I leave the upper realm? There were too many things bothering Jun Changshao, so he had no choice but to stay in the upper realm, even if he desperately wanted to reunite with Gu Xiaoxi. Brother, you were born into a good family. As your brother, I'm happy for you. It's just that, Jun Changshao said seriously, when we reunite, I won't be weaker than you. Some people would think that after Go Sheng learned that Go-Wa was Gu Xiaoxi, he would shamelessly suck up to him. But in fact, after experiencing 2 incidents, he felt that his cultivation was too weak and decided to work hard. Rely on others. In the end, it was better to rely on himself. Moreover, Gu Xiaoxi's father was very strong, but was his system weak? Rather than saying that the astral world's first fleet did not give Jun Changshao a chance to suck up to him when they invaded the upper realm, he recognized his own shortcomings. A few days later, Gongsun Ruoli came to the sect of all times. It's over here. I'm going outside to look for your mother. Jun Changshao knew that she had made up her mind, so he did not stop her. Whoosh! That day, Gongsun Ruoli turned into a stream of light, flew out of the upper realm, and merged into the endless universe. During this time, I'll manage the sect. You can cultivate in peace. Rose of Flowers, who was standing behind him, said. After a trip to the falling star continent, she could feel that Jun Changxiao's behavior had changed. His naughtiness was gradually replaced by maturity and steadiness. Then I'll have to trouble you. Rose of Flowers was in charge of all the internal affairs. Jun Changxiao entered the space-time secret realm and took out all the martial skills of the demonic tribe that his father had given him before he left. Then he crushed a talisman of insight and started to cultivate. The path of martial arts was not about the number of secret manuals one could learn, but the pursuit of perfection. Since he could learn it in an instant, the more the better. Furthermore, the martial arts of the Moang clan were similar to other people's martial arts. After cultivating, one could also increase one's martial arts knowledge. I still can't understand the special Upanishads inside. After finishing his cultivation, Jun Changxiao habitually took out the 7 remaining scrolls. For the past few years, every time his realm increased, he would take out the 7 mysterious sunglow break to study it. It was not to learn martial arts, but to pry into the profound meaning. However, as his realm increased, not only did he not understand the main points, but he also felt that it was more unfathomable. From Gu Tianqing's words, Jun Changxiao had already learned that the 7 profound saint sovereign was known as a martial arts legend. His strength should be extremely terrifying, and for him to leave behind 7 incomplete scrolls that contained profound mysteries, there might be some sort of great opportunity there. The internal affairs of the sect were handled by Rose of Flowers and the upper echelons. Jun Changxiao focused on cultivating and formulating a development plan. There was nothing much to plan. With the current way the sect of all times operated, as long as there was the support of the elixir store, the resources would only increase. Because of the new sect missions, the disciples would also participate in them while cultivating, and they could also continuously obtain sufficient 3 points. As for the most crucial realm increase, as long as he could form a core at 1 rotation speed, the entire sect's core transformation realm would definitely not be a problem. This was the strength of the lower level, and the upper echelons and core disciples could not be left behind. Therefore, Jun Changxiao reloaded the VIP account for a year, which would be crazily refreshed every month to purchase martial arts facilities to increase one's realm. Ding! Host has spent 5,000 reputation points and obtained Elder's exclusive cultivation room X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect reputation points 12,000. After 2 months and a total of 60 refreshes, Jun Changxiao finally obtained a brand new tool for cultivation, but it was only available to elders. Other than the newly joined Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho, the senior elders like Ding Xingwang and Jiang Ye had not entered the truth-seeking realm, even though their strength was steadily increasing. The appearance of the elders' exclusive cultivation room would undoubtedly help them improve. Of course, this kind of martial arts facility was not something that could be entered casually, and merit points would be deducted. The disciples obtained contribution points from completing sect missions, and then used them to exchange for items in the store. The elders also had similar values. If not for the appearance of the exclusive cultivation room, Jun Changxiao would not have realized it. Haha. In the exclusive cultivation room where majestic heaven and earth attributes gathered, Jiang Ye placed his palm on the screen. When he saw the 460 value that gradually appeared, he could not control his emotions and laughed loudly. Ding Xingwang broke down. Why is this guy higher than me? The value displayed on the screen was the merit points. If one wanted to cultivate inside, they would need to spend some points every day. Let me try. Old Ge walked over and placed his palm on the screen. The number displayed was 1,500. Damn! Jiang Ye was dumbfounded. Elder Jiang. Old Ge cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for letting me win." The Ning brothers also came to take the test. Their merit points were around 400 to 500. Ryu Sinan and Gongsun Ho were the last to take the test. The result was 0, so they walked out of the cultivation room dejectedly. When Jun Changshao heard about it, he came to comfort them. The two of you have only been in the sect for a short time. It's normal that you don't have any merit points. If an elder wanted to obtain merit points, they had to contribute to the sect. This contribution depended on whether they could provide martial arts assistance to the disciples. For example, Old Gu was able to earn 1,500 merit points because he joined the Eternal Sect. Almost every day, he would go to the martial lecture hall to teach the disciples. Moreover, he would often replace the other elders. Although his presence was not high, his contribution was high. On the other hand, although Jiang Ye and Ding Xingwang occasionally came to give lectures, they spent more time on cultivation. Therefore, they did not have many merit points. The Ning brothers did not give lectures to the disciples, but they were in charge of disciple recruitment. They had contributed a lot. Understood. Ryu Sinan said, I'll teach tomorrow. Gong Sun Ho rolled his eyes at him and said, You're just a dabbler. You'll only mislead the disciples. I'll be the one teaching the disciples. The two of them had not been in the sect for long, but they had benefited from all kinds of martial arts facilities. Therefore, when the special cultivation room appeared, they began to contribute to the sect and actively taught the disciples. They even had conflicts in the Wu-Tang class many times. It would be great to be taught by two middle-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. As for Ding Xingwang, Old Gu, and the others, it was rare for them to have free time. They used the merit points they had, and frequently went to the cultivation room. It was only a matter of time before they improved their realms. Since there are elders' cultivation rooms, there should be hall masters' cultivation rooms, right? Jun Changshao sat in the study and thought. Everything is available. The system said, as long as the host is brave enough to refresh. Jun Changshao was speechless. You're really promoting it every time you have a chance. Ding. Epic quest triggered. It's finally here. Jun Changshao almost cried. The first fleet of the astral spirit realm invaded the upper realm, and the 10th fleet invaded the falling star continent. What two good opportunities to issue missions. In the end, he didn't even get a side mission. Swoosh. He opened the panel and clicked on the introduction. Upper Realm Epic Quest, 6 Mission Details. The host must improve the overall strength of the sect within 2 years. Mission requirements. Upper Truth Seeking Realm 0/1. Middle Truth Seeking Realm 0/5. Core Disciple Lower Truth Seeking Realm 0/10. Mission reward. After reading the conditions, Jun Changshao said gloomily, Don't Xingqian and Minjing count? The system said, It should be counted from the time the mission is issued. Those who break through in advance are not counted. 2 years. Jun Changshao muttered to himself, This is a little difficult. Chapter 1619. Judging from the new epic quest, Jun Changshao was forced to improve the strength of the sect. He couldn't be lazy anymore. 2 years. Not too long. It would definitely be a little difficult to meet the quest requirements. Elder Lu, Jun Changshao said, If you are given enough martial arts resources, how long will it take for you to reach the upper level? 2,000 years. Go Xing almost fell off his chair. 2 years and 2,000 years, the difference between. God knows how many times. Jun Changshao asked Gong Sun Ho again, but the answer he got was still a few thousand years. So he broke down and pressed his face on the table, saying sadly, It's too difficult for me. There were still 5 middle-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and 10 lower-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. Don't be discouraged. The system said, As long as your mind doesn't slip, there are always more solutions than difficulties. That's right. Jun Changshao raised his head and said, I can go outside and recruit ready-made strong masters. It was impossible to train them in 2 years. However, wouldn't it be easy to recruit high-level truth-seeking realm cultivators and directly appoint elders? The system was speechless. You're cheating. After having an idea, Jun Changshao began to think about who to recruit. The first thing he thought of was naturally Jimren Tonggu and his family and friends. If he recruited them all, not only would he successfully meet the target, but he would also exceed it. The completion rate might exceed 1,000% by the settlement. Opportunity. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. A good opportunity to skip a level. He could recruit elders and disciples. When the epic quest was completed, he might be able to enter the divine secret realm from the lower-level truth-seeking realm. Host, you're dreaming. Although the system had been slapped in the face countless times, this was the only time it was the most confident, because it didn't think that the author would dare to let Gosheng directly enter the third step from the second step. Because of the cheat. It was simply crazy. The appearance of the epic quest meant that Jun Changxiao was stuck at the critical point. No matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't be able to improve, so he gave up cultivating and hurried to the extreme cave abode to rope in his master. I disagree. After learning the purpose of his visit, Jimren Tonggu said, I'm indifferent to fame and fortune. I won't join a sect. Master. There's no need to say too much. Experts like Jimren Tonggu yearn to be free and unrestrained. They yearn to play chess and take back their moves. Naturally, they would not join a sect, because it was an invisible shackle. All right. Jun Changxiao left dejectedly. Even if Master didn't agree, what about the 7 sages of Ethereal Hall? In order to tempt them, Gosheng brought rich gifts and persuaded them with his glib tongue. In the end, he successfully recruited one of the upper-level truth-seeking realm cultivators. Even after the procedures were completed, the requirement for the epic-level quest did not increase. Ha ha ha. The system could not help but laugh out loud. Fuck, Jun Changxiao cursed in his heart. He originally thought that he could use the bug to complete the mission. But in the end, he didn't get what he wanted. Senior, you're free now. Jun Changxiao expelled one of the newly recruited 7 sages of Misty Mountain from the sect. He sat alone in the main hall, sad and lonely. Are you in trouble? Rows of flowers jumped up and sat beside him. You can say that. Jun Changxiao said listlessly. Over the years, he had done many epic-level quests. Some were easier, some were more difficult, but this was the only one that could be called hell mode. In fact, he was confident that he could promote the upper echelons. But 2 years was too short. I followed Senior Gongsun to cultivate. The trouble I encountered shouldn't be less than yours, right? Rows of Flowers said. Didn't I survive in the end? She and Jun Changxiao were only husband and wife in name, so she always addressed Gongsun Ruoli as Senior. Right. Gosheng's eyes lit up. How did you cultivate? Before Rows of Flowers followed Gongsun Ruoli to cultivate, she was only at the core transformation realm. In just over a year, she broke through to the lower-level truth-seeking realm. This speed was even faster than cheating. Senior Gongsun brought me to a forbidden area. What forbidden area? Abyss of Life. Abyss of Life. Jun Changxiao had never heard of this forbidden area. Rows of Flowers said, there are rich heaven and earth attributes and laws of heaven and earth inside. It can be absorbed at will, so I can improve by leaps and bounds in such a short time. Where is it? Jun Changxiao was instantly tempted. The damned upper realm version of the system store had a limit on the number of refresh times. If there were no good items, he had to wait for another month, so he could only choose another reliable method. You want to go? The upper echelons and disciples will go. Stuck in the realm, Jun Changxiao did not need to improve, nor could he improve, so he could only let the upper echelons and core disciples go. No. Rows of Flowers shook her head. You'll die. I'll die. Jun Changxiao was confused. Rows of Flowers said, the Abyss of Life is actually an ancient formation that has existed for a long time. It needs someone to be the formation eye to activate it. It's not just the formation eye, right? It also consumes lifespan. If it can make them stronger, it doesn't matter if it consumes lifespan, Jun Changxiao said. Rows of Flowers said, in order to make me stronger, Senior Gongsun personally became the formation eye. In just over a year, it consumed 1,000 years of lifespan. So much. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. For a powerhouse like his father who was half a step into the divine secret realm, 1,000 years of lifespan was nothing. But for an ordinary martial artist, it was a bit too much. A martial artist's lifespan would naturally increase with the increase of the realm. Losing 1,000 years was equivalent to losing 1,000 years of cultivation opportunity. If they could not improve in the future, it was equivalent to committing suicide in advance. It's just one person, Rose of Flowers said. Senior Gongsun said that if more martial artists enter, the lifespan consumed will also increase. Jun Changxiao was silent. According to the epic mission's quota, he needed 16 people to reach the standard. If he let them all go in and be the formation eye himself, how much lifespan would that consume? To put it bluntly, a forbidden land like the abyss of life was actually to use one's lifespan to increase the experience of others. So many powerhouses had heard of it, but almost no one had gone there. Because no one would selflessly contribute unless it was a special situation. Go, Jun Changxiao said. Let's give it a try. If they cultivated step by step within 2 years, they might not be able to meet the quota. At that time, their realm would be stuck. So it was better to consume their lifespan to improve. At least there was absolute hope. This forbidden land can only promote martial artists to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm. As for whether they can succeed or not, it depends on their luck. It was precisely because it was full of uncertainty that no one was willing to go to the abyss of life to waste their lifespan. That works too. The mission was to promote 10 core disciples to the lower level. Jun Changxiao planned to do his best to get them up first, and then consider the problem of promoting the higher level. The road, one step at a time. The next day, on the training field, Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaomao, Li Fei, and the other core disciples flew onto the ancient warship. Whoosh, the warship cut through the void and headed for the abyss of life. Rose of Flowers also followed. After all, she had been there once and had experience in this area. However, when they arrived at the abyss of life hidden in the mountain range, Jun Changxiao realized that her goal was not to follow the path, but to be the formation eye. So he shouted, "Hurry up and come out!" Rose of Flowers said, "With so many disciples going in, they will need a lot of lifespan. Husband will have to manage the sect of all times in the future, so let me contribute." Chapter 1620. Who created the abyss of life was a mystery in the upper realm. The function of the internal formation was very magical. By consuming the lifespan of the formation eye, there was a chance that martial artists could be promoted to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm. Jun Changxiao rushed over when he heard about it. However, Rose of Flowers took the initiative to walk in and act as the formation eye. What do you mean by a good wife? This is it. The system was touched, and even wanted to take the opportunity to scold Gosheng. Can your lifespan be as long as mine? Jun Changxiao said with a straight face. Hurry up and come out. Gosheng dared to come here and consume his lifespan because he was very young and had an easier time breaking through the realm than ordinary people. So he was willing to squander it. If it were Ryu Sinan and Gongsun Ho, they would definitely be terrified. After all, they had lived for too long and had no hope of entering the third step in this lifetime. If they squandered it, they might die immediately. I want to help my husband share the burden. Rose of Flowers did not know that Jun Changxiao was trapped in the epic mission, but she could see that he wanted the sect to become stronger, so he was willing to sacrifice his life to help him. There was no need to exaggerate. In her opinion, this was what a wife should do. Moreover, Gongsun Ruoli also consumed 1,000 years of her lifespan to promote her realm. There's no need, Jun Changxiao said. I can handle it myself. The formation has been activated. Let them go in quickly, Rose of Flowers said. Seeing that she was so determined, Jun Changxiao finally said after tens of thousands of words of inner conflict, Go in. Yes. Li Qingyang and the others stepped into the flowing light formation. Hum. As the 10 core disciples all entered the abyss of life, strands of strange attributes appeared on Rose of Flowers, who was in the formation eye, and then integrated into the entire formation system. This was lifespan. Losing a strand was equivalent to losing a day. Inside, Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, and the others were shocked. After the formation was strengthened by the lifespan, It turned from an illusory and ethereal state into a starry sky. Gradually, the boundless nature and laws of heaven and earth appeared, like scattered stars and wandering spirits. This is amazing. Su Xiaomo raised his hand. As soon as he touched the attributes and laws, they uncontrollably drilled into his mind. His martial arts instantly experienced a subtle rise. Although the martial arts facilities that Jun Changshao had provided in the past were very powerful, they could be found everywhere in the abyss of life. The martial arts knowledge that could be easily obtained was obviously more powerful. The items in the system store were not made out of thin air. They came from different worlds and different universes. Therefore, this was sufficient to prove that there was nothing too strange in the boundless universe. Cultivate. Lu Qianqian sat down cross-legged. Li Qingyang and the others recovered from their shock, and one after another, they concealed their spirit and qi. The abyss of life contained extremely complete martial arts knowledge and profound meanings. They only needed to absorb and accommodate it. As for whether they could break through the truth-seeking realm, it would depend on themselves and their luck. Outside, Jun Changshao sat on the stone, his eyes never leaving Rose of Flowers, who was in the eye of the array. He looked calm on the surface, but in fact, he was panicking inside. Buzz! Buzz! Wisps of lifespan flew out of Rose of Flowers' body, and then merged into the array, replenishing the attributes and laws of heaven and earth for the 10 disciples. They could really burn themselves to warm others. 10 days. 50 days. The 10 core disciples in the abyss of life seemed to have turned into meditating old monks, crazily absorbing the martial arts power inside, and their realms were also rising. As a price, Rose of Flowers had to pay 10 times her lifespan. Therefore, after being in the eye of the array for half a year, her black hair gradually turned pale, and her tender skin gradually aged. Lifespan was the foundation of a martial artist. Because they did not live long enough, how could they comprehend more profound martial arts realms? And if there was a serious consumption, they would naturally experience the side effect of aging. Damn it! Seeing this, Jun Changshao hurriedly rushed in. Although he was quite a straightforward man, he understood that appearance was very important to women. Let me do it. Jun Changshao pulled Rose of Flowers out. Don't blame him for being a little rude. After all, this method was obviously the most direct and effective. Buzz! Buzz! As soon as Jun Changshao stood in the eye of the array, he suddenly felt that the blood in his body seemed to be burning, and then something special was drawn out. This is lifespan, the system said. Can you calculate how much lifespan I have now? About 20 to 30,000 years. Okay, Jun Changshao said. Then I'll sacrifice until there are only 100 years left. This lifespan just corresponded to the time specified in the main mission. Anyway, if he could not complete it, he would die, so he might as well use it all to help his disciple. Whoosh! Whoosh! Wisps of lifespan were absorbed. The process was not painful, but Jun Changshao looked at the deteriorating Rose of Flowers in the outside world, and his heart seemed to be stabbed by a knife. To let a woman who looked to be in her prime suddenly age to 50 or 60 years old, he was annoyed that he should have done it himself. It's okay, the system said. You will also decline, and then we will be an old couple. Strangely enough, after Jun Changshao replaced Rose of Flowers, the heaven and earth attributes and laws in the abyss of life became stronger than before, which made Li Qingyang even more focused on cultivation. Because he was too immersed, he forgot about time. One day, Lu Qianqian's body surged with a majestic aura, and she successfully stepped into the lower level of the truth-seeking realm from the peak of the core transformation realm. Li Qingyang, Su Xiaoma, and the others followed closely behind and stepped into the truth-seeking realm. She broke through. Unbelievable. Even the martial arts facilities in the sect are not so magical. Let's go out. After breaking through to the truth-seeking realm, they could not accommodate the heaven and earth attributes and laws, so they could only leave the abyss of life. However, when they came out and saw the aging Rose of Flowers, they were all stunned. Ma'am? If not for their clothes, it would be difficult to recognize Li Qingyang and Su Xiaoma. Rose of Flowers said, "Let's care about the patriarch." Li Qingyang and the others clearly remembered that Ma M was the array core. Now that she was standing at the door with an aged face, it meant that the patriarch had gone to replace her. Therefore, they hurriedly looked at the array core area, but they saw nothing. "I'm here." Suddenly a voice sounded. Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads and saw a child about 3 to 5 years old standing in front of them. Because his clothes were too loose, he looked like he was wrapped in a layer of bedsheets. His eyes were big and watery. Not only did he look cute, but he also looked like Jun Changshao. "Fuck!" Su Xiaoma blurted out in shock. "Is this the son of the patriarch in Ma M? We've been cultivating inside for 3 to 5 years?" Bang plop! The side of his face flew out and landed beautifully. The child maintained his punching posture and said angrily, "I'm your patriarch." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. The patriarch's wife looked old, and the patriarch had regained his youth. Was this a side effect of consuming his lifespan? Let's go. Back to the sect. On the same day, the sect of all times was in an uproar. The patriarch, who had been away for a year, had returned as a child. And the patriarch's wife, who was a great beauty that could cause the downfall of a country, had aged. System. After changing into a fitting set of clothes, the young Jun Changshao jumped onto the chair and asked, "Is there a way to restore that woman's appearance?" "Your wife's problem isn't that big. A beauty pill can solve the problem," the system said. "However, if the host's body shrinks into a child's appearance, I'm afraid. Puhahaha. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.